The story begins as we see a golden hero going up against a monster, and we learn that his strength is based on the trust of the people who believe in him, so anyone can become a hero. We meet a boy named Lin as he pitches his commercial to his boss, thinking it's a good idea because the upcoming hero competition for the rank 1 spot of Hero X is coming up, but he's told that it's nonsense. He insists it's a good idea, thinking that even a nobody like him could become a hero, but his boss wonders if he believes that, since he's useless and has no special abilities. He tells Len to just accept reality and orders him to come up with another pitch. But he gets a call from the Treeman Corporation's manager named Jay, and he learns that she already received Len's proposal. He gets cut off before he can explain himself, and Len reminds him he was told to send his proposal first thing in the morning, but he ends up being fired on the spot. We see Len on the roof with all his belongings, as he thinks about how even though anyone can become a hero, it's hard to gain the trust of the people. As he sulks, a hero named Moon tells him to cheer up, mentioning that challenges are a part of life, but it turns out to be another commercial that he worked on. He sees the hero nice, as he talks about what it means to have a perfect life, but the video glitches, and Lin loses it, noting that even if he's perfect, he'll eventually be replaced when he gets old and ugly. He suddenly appears, and Lin can't believe it, but Nice walks right past him, and he goes over the edge. He instantly falls and smashes into the ground, leaving Len shocked, and he wonders why he didn't fly. We see Jay as she rushes over with her security, and Lin tries to explain that Nice jumped by himself, but Jay tells her men to grab him. We see Jay canceling all of Nice's activities, and when Lin wakes up, he realizes he isn't dreaming. He explains that he's the one who sends her the advertising proposals, but she asks him what happened, so he mentions that Nice just walked past him and did his signature pose. Jay gets a call from her boss named Son, and as they talk about Nice, Lin yells and tries to reveal that he's dead, but Jay quickly shuts him up. After the call, Lin notes that holding him won't bring Nice back, but as they look at him, they realize that he actually looks like Nice. 1 week later, we see Lin as he gets a makeover and is told by Jay to memorize Nice's lines. She reveals that they faked his death on the news, so that he can now go on to live as Nice. Lin is nervous about pretending to be nice, but she tells him not to doubt himself, because the power of trust is what shapes their world. As he interacts with Nice's fans, their trust in him starts to grant him powers, and Jay notes that if everyone believes in him, it will also cause his body to change. Lin sees that the color of his eyes have changed, and they also notice that his hair and voice have become identical to Nice, but Jay tells him to be careful, because losing trust is easier than gaining it. She notes that he needs to go with Nice's girlfriend Moon to a show, and he's nervous that she'll see through their lie. But they notice that he's blushing, so he tells them he likes her, but only as a fan. Jay pushes him out of the van, and he confidently greets Moon, winning everyone's hearts. The show begins, but instead of the usual host, the 249th hero of the association named Enlighter arrives. Jay is angry at the last-minute change, but the team tells her that the original host was exposed as a fraud, so they had to replace him. Enlighter notes that the show is called The True Love Recipe, and he'll try to expose the hidden secrets of their love life, but Jay tells the team to contact the producer and shut down the live stream. Enlighter starts by asking Len how many commercials Moon has been part of, and about their total run time. Jay thinks it's a stupid question, and even Moon thinks she couldn't answer it. But Lin surprisingly answers them correctly, since he was the one who made the commercials. Enlighter brings out a lie detector in the next round, and he connects it to Lin, asking him if Moon is really his girlfriend, because he thinks their relationship is fake. Lin realizes that he'll be caught lying if he accepts it, so he notes that she isn't his girlfriend, which makes Enlighter happy. But he mentions that she's his goddess, and the only reason he became a hero is to protect her. The audience admires their perfect relationship, but Enlighter tells everyone that they still need to pass a third stage, and he invites Lin's old boss named Bob. He notes that Nice's entire hero persona is based on the efforts of his agency, which makes the commercials, but they have driven Bob to bankruptcy, which even made one of his employees take their own life. Bob asks him for his money, but Jay tells him that they already terminated the contract, so they won't pay him anything. He mentions that they've cost him a lot of money with their constant revisions, with a promise to pay extra, but he has never received anything. Enlighter criticizes Len for not paying his dues on time, and Bob sends him flying into the wall, which reduces the public's trust in him. Bob demands his money, and he uses his whip to attack, but Len manages to avoid it while grabbing Moon. He realizes he can't ignore the threat, because Bob's power grows with fear, so he rushes toward him, and manages to land a few hits while dodging his attacks. Everyone thinks he's using new moves he perfected with his recent absence, and Jay thinks it's a perfect comeback. Bob notes that he can't allow his company to go out of business, and he charges in, but Lin stops him with a hit to his head, telling him to calm down. He mentions that Lin doesn't know the stress of owning a business, as it involves dealing with problematic clients and lazy employees, who only appreciate their work when they're about to lose their jobs. He notes that it's because of their fear of being laid off that he was granted the new power, which enabled him to truly control the destructive power of fear. He suddenly starts shooting termination letters everywhere, and Moon realizes that he's trying to use them to absorb more power from fear, so Lin thinks he needs to finish things quickly. He thinks that since he became nice, he wouldn't be scared of his old boss, but he's surprised that even a direct hit has no effect on Bob, because he's gotten stronger since absorbing all the fear. Lin struggles to keep up, because he has already used all of his techniques, and he jumps to avoid Bob's attack, but he guesses Lin's trajectory and shoots him with a laser. Lin wonders why he can't defeat him, since he has already become a hero who lives in everyone's heart, but the dark force of fear starts overpowering him. He looks back on his life, and accepts that the old Lin is dead, but he wants to prove Bob wrong, by showing him that even a nobody can become a hero. He overcomes his fears, as he pushes back with all his strength, and delivers a devastating blow, which shatters Bob's armor. The news report shows that it was a terror attack, and the Hero Association has found a fear amplifier on the attacker, which was seen in multiple attacks arranged by the Spotlight organization. Jay tells Lin that his popularity has skyrocketed thanks to the incident, and he thinks she was right that instead of trying to be like nice, he must accept his new identity. She's happy to hear it, and takes him to his new home at the Hero Tower, where the ranking of a hero determines which floor they will get. He asks her about Nice's suicide, so she notes that it was his own choice, and tells Lin he'll be in the same situation one day, where he'll need to make a choice. Lin is surprised to see how big the place is, but he doesn't like his giant statue in the center, and he decides to go straight to bed. But he notices Moon sleeping next to him, so he puts a blanket on her, but he realizes that something's wrong, and as he looks at her again, he sees that she's covered in blood. We go back to when Moon was just a travel vlogger, but as she becomes popular, her fans want her to show them all kinds of places, so she gains the power of teleportation. As she's walking on the road, she sees a robber who almost runs over some kids, so she uses her teleportation to knock him out. But the car loses control, and she falls off, but Nice catches her just in time, and the encounter instantly makes them an ideal couple in everyone's eyes. We return to the present, as Lin wakes up, and he remembers seeing Moon's body, but he sees her exercising on the treadmill, so he realizes it was just a nightmare. He tries to greet her, but she ignores him, and during their breakfast, he notices that she's a completely different person compared to her public appearance. She tells him they should stop acting, because she knows he isn't nice, so he realizes that she already knows about his secret, and she asks him about Nice, so Lin mentions that he's dead. But instead of grieving for him, she calls Jay, telling her it was a good thing that Nice died, because it gave them the opportunity to end this stupid relationship. Jay arrives, and explains that Nice was their company's biggest asset, so they must make sure he exists no matter what. Moon notes that she doesn't want to be his girlfriend, but Jay tells her that the fans want them to get married, which freaks her out. She reminds them of their contracts, and Lin has no problem with it, but Moon notes that she wants to terminate it. Jay rejects her request and leaves, telling them they can't leave until they agree to marry each other, and Lin reminds her of her teleportation powers, but she tells him to stop talking to her. She removes her hair extensions, thinking it would scare a perfectionist like him, but he finds her cute. She starts breaking things, telling him she doesn't want to marry him, because she wants to be free. Moon becomes hungry, and since there's no Wi-Fi and food delivery, she starts cooking food on a piano. He brings her fruits, asking her why she signed the contract. She throws a tomato at his statue, telling him she has always hated it, but he agrees that it's boring. She invites him to also throw something at it, and when he manages to hit it, she realizes that he's different from the old Nice. She explains that his power had a slight issue, which is why he couldn't stand any imperfections or uncleanliness. But Lin notes that his OCD has been getting worse, and she hits him with the tomatoes, telling him to retain his identity instead of becoming nice. He tells her she shouldn't blame him if he gets a little too competitive, and they end up having a tomato fight. At night, they both prepare to sleep on their separate beds, and Moon asks Lin for his real name, but he tells her to answer his question first, asking her why she can't teleport out of there. She creates a portal and shows up next to him, telling him their believers wish for them to stay together, so her teleportation portal always sends her to him, which makes her feel trapped. He wonders if she ever liked Nice, so she reveals that she has had a contract with the Treeman Corporation ever since she started vlogging, so it's just work for her. She reminds him to share his real name, so he introduces himself, and she thinks his name is much better than Nice. They remain trapped for a month, and without food or any source of entertainment, Lin thinks he's going to die of boredom. Moon threatens to take her own life if Jay doesn't end the contract, but he tells her to calm down, since she's already used that threat before. As Jay watches them, she's sure that if they stay locked together, they're bound to develop feelings for each other. Lin makes a swing, and as he goes to get a pillow, Moon sneaks onto it. He's happy to see her enjoying it, and she tells him she didn't expect him to have such fun ideas, so he notes that he used to work in an advertising agency. He explains that it was his job to make the impossible possible, and she wonders what kind of cruel clients he had. So he reveals that he worked for Jay, and he made all her promotional videos. She realizes it's the reason why he was able to answer the questions at the show, and he mentions that working for her encouraged him when he was at the lowest point of his life. After that, we see Lin proposing to Moon, and she says yes in front of all their fans, but they're suddenly interrupted by Nice's nemesis named Rek. He mentions that if he can't have something, he won't allow Nice to have it either, and Rek rushes towards Lin. Moon tries to block him, but he jumps over, and Lin barely manages to dodge his attack. They start fighting, and Rek asks Lin why he isn't responding to his messages, but Moon tells Rek to attack her instead, so that he can leave Lin with a lifelong regret. But he thinks she's too loud, so he takes Lin away, asking him where he's been all this time. But Lin dodges the question, thinking Jay must have already told him, but Rek wants to hear it directly from him. Moon tries to intervene, reminding him of his real target, but he has no interest in fighting her, and Jay wonders what's wrong with him, since he isn't following the script. We go back to after Lin made a swing for Moon, and he knows it's selfish, but he asks her if she would like to continue the act. Moon doesn't like it, and as the rope breaks, she walks away since she's angry at him, but he suddenly gets an idea. He calls Jay there, and he tells them about his plan to turn their romantic story into a tragic one, because it will win everyone's sympathy. Jay likes his idea, and notes that imperfection can be more perfect than perfection, but she thinks they will need to kill Moon. In the present, Jay sends a drone and tells Rek to behave, because they've poured so much money into making him Nice's nemesis. But he tells her to leave, because he needs to ask Lin something important. Moon kicks him away, and tells him to finish his work before discussing things with Lin. But Rek uses his magic to create giant structures, and he asks Lin where Nice is. He wonders what he means, but Rek can tell that he isn't the person he knows. Moon arrives and tries to attack him, but he overpowers her, and threatens to kill her if Lin doesn't reveal the truth. She's happy that Rek is following the story, but Lin tells her he'll kill her for real, and he reveals that Nice took his own life. So Rek starts crying, but he suddenly loses control, and starts attacking them with his powers. Jay tells them to leave, because the other heroes will take care of him, but Lin notes that he must be the one to end it. She thinks he still isn't strong enough, but he flies at Rek, and dodges all of his attacks. Moon tries to help him, but Rek easily dodges their attacks, and he transforms his weapon into its ultimate form, before sending orbs of darkness towards them. They manage to get out just in time, and he charges towards Moon, but she creates a portal, and Lin comes out of it, punching Rek with everything he has. But Rek starts crying, because Lin's punch is different from Nice's, and he remembers how he and Nice used to be friends. They both wanted to become heroes, but he was selected to be Nice's nemesis, and he continued to support his friend to become a bigger hero. But Jay suddenly stopped inviting him, and Nice didn't respond to any of his messages. As he falls to his death, Moon tells Lin that she was injured during the fight, so he rushes towards her, but she notes that it's the fake blood pack Jay gave her. She mentions that the few days she's spent with him were better than the last few years, and she's sad to part ways with him. He starts to cry, making everyone emotional, and it increases his popularity even further. After that, Moon finally creates a portal, which opens to an island, because Lin had asked his fans to wish for something new for her. She wonders what he'll do next, and the TV report shows that he's aiming to reach the top 10 heroes list, so she leaves after wishing him luck. Meanwhile, Enlighter checks the footage from his show, and he realizes that Lin's heartbeat increased when Bob arrived. He suddenly remembers the boy who took his own life, and he checks his picture, realizing he's the same person as Nice. As Enlighter is busy thinking about it, he receives a fear amplifier, which talks him into joining the Spotlight organization, and he's turned into God Eye. Jay notices Lin zoning out, but he notes that he was listening to her, as she was telling him that they have information about Furman's nemesis, and he needs to defeat her. Jay knows that he misses Moon, but she reminds him that it was his choice, so he needs to move forward, or else all his sacrifices will be for nothing. She asks him if he knows what he needs to do next, so he mentions that he must defeat Furman's nemesis Wolf Girl. But she tells him he's wrong, because his main objective is to become the top-ranked hero, and for that to happen, he must surpass Furman and enter the top 10. We go back to the past, when Furman sees a girl crying in a burning building, so he gives his protective jacket to her, but the building suddenly collapses on them. After a while, the rescue team arrives to save them, and they see him holding the building's fallen structure above his head to protect the girl. Jay tells Len that the incident received wide media coverage, and Furman became a hero. But one day, as the rank 10 hero's nemesis was running from him, he crashed into Furman and died, so he became the rank 10 hero. After that, he was given the task of acting as the hinge for moving the world's biggest boulder, and the association even made him a diamond sculpture. The Hero Association also held a press conference in his honor, where the girl he saved presented him with a red stole. He wonders why Furman can't go directly after Wolf Girl, so Jay shows him the narrow pipe which leads to her hideout, and he realizes that Furman can't crawl because of his powers. She notes that the hideout has a network of tunnels, and they've only found one entrance, but she thinks other heroes are also looking for Wolf Girl. He wonders why they don't just wait for her to get out, but Jay tells him she isn't a reckless villain, since she uses imagination. She mentions how Wolf Girl plants a seed of evil in everyone's hearts, and the underground den is where she prints her fairy tale books, which twist the people's image of Furman. Lin enters the tunnel, thinking Furman represents the Hero Association, so his bad image will affect all heroes. He finds a hero stuck in a pipe, and he helps him, but accidentally pulls off his pants, which makes them both embarrassed. The hero notes that he'll leave, since Lin has arrived to take out Wolf Girl, but as he walks in the opposite direction, the hero tries to attack him, but Lin sends him flying into the wall. After that, Lin finds her hideout, and he starts going through her stuff, asking Jay about his current location. But he realizes it's a trap, since several heroes suddenly receive the same intel after she had been hiding for such a long time. A timer starts beeping, as Jay tells him he's directly under the Hero Avenue, and a bomb goes off. The explosion reaches the surface, where Furman is talking to some kids, and as the ground shatters, he realizes that his giant statue is about to crush a girl. He stops it just before it crushes her, and she runs away, but Wolf Girl suddenly comes out and grabs her. He tells her to let the girl go, but she mentions that she wants to destroy his sculpture, telling him to let it fall if he wants to save the girl. The other heroes are either stuck in the tunnels, or busy rescuing people, so she wonders if he would protect the egos of the so-called heroes, or an actual living person. The bystanders start telling him to let go, but he still holds onto it, and Lin suddenly arrives. Furman tells him to save the girl, but he notes that Wolf Girl won't harm her, since her real goal is to make him let go of everything. He explains that she's the same girl who gave him the red stole, and she doesn't hate him. But she doesn't like the way he's forced to be strong all the time, and the fairy tales that tarnish his image actually tell his story from her perspective. We learn that everyone bullied her when she was in school, because she told them that Furman is a gentle person. She claims that she was saved by him, but they don't believe her, and they think she's damaging his reputation, because she's telling them he isn't that strong. The Wolf Girl takes off her mask, and she mentions that she wishes for the firefighter who saved her to return, which makes Furman emotional, because he considers her his source of courage. He begins to cry, which leads to a decrease in his trust powers, and the statue is about to crush him, so the Wolf Girl and Len try to help him, but it crashes to the ground. So everyone starts to panic, but Lin pushes through, and they realize that he's doing his best to save the others. Jay sees everyone cheering for him, and she starts a live stream, which further increases his trust powers. As he successfully lifts it, she sees that his trust rankings have surpassed Furman, so he's now part of the top 10 heroes. After that, Lin heads to the 10th floor, where he meets Furman, who's preparing to move out. But he reveals that he's happy because everyone wished for him to keep standing up, so he struggled to live his life. Lin notes that his OCD is also worsening because of the perfectionism that comes with his powers, but Furman notes that he made it to the 10th floor because of the decision he made. As he leaves, Lin tells him that he isn't the real Nice, but Furman notes that he should just try to be himself. Lin remembers Moon and rethinks his decision to be a hero, but he suddenly sees her on TV, realizing that she was kidnapped by God Eye. Everyone's shocked that she's still alive, but he reveals that she never died, telling them everything about Nice is fake, so he's going to expose him. Lin's trust ranking decreases because of the lie about Moon's death, and he wants to go and save her, but he realizes that he can't leave the tower because the people don't want him to respond. Jae apologizes to her boss Son and tells him that they didn't know where Moon went, so she doesn't know how God Eye found her. But she assures him that as long as they don't admit to anything, the supporters of Nice and Moon's relationship will be their best defenders. God Eye realizes that people still don't believe him completely, so he threatens to kill Moon in 1 hour if Nice doesn't face him. Jae tells Len that his supporters have waited a long time for him to reach the top 10, so they don't wish for him to leave. But he wonders what will happen to Moon, so she tells him they've already sent another hero to save her. God Eye is surprised when a hero named Blankster arrives, since he's the Treeman Corporation's cleanup specialist, and as he rushes to attack, Jae explains that he's famous for his iron fists. His attacks don't only deal physical damage, because he can also destroy his opponent's memories, and Lin is worried about Moon. But Jae notes that God Eye and Moon are the only two people who know his secret, so it would be best if they both forget it. God Eye struggles against Blankster, but he uses his system to analyze him, and he finds Blankster's weakness. He blocks his punch, and mentions how much effort the Treeman Corporation has put into covering up his imperfections, so he could gain everyone's trust. But in the end, only the truth will prevail, and he starts leaking information about Blankster. Son tells Jae to stop the broadcast, so she orders her IT team to replace it with something else, or Blankster's trust will continue to decrease. God Eye teases Blankster that he's just a third-rate boxer who uses metal plates in his gloves, telling him he's nothing if he doesn't cheat. God Eye manages to defeat him and tells Lin he's next, but the IT team finally manages to block the signal. Lin tries to leave again, and after struggling for a while, he finally realizes that he won't be able to leave as Nice, so he changes back to his original self. He gets on the elevator, telling Jae that he isn't Nice, and on his way down, he realizes that he never wanted to become Nice because he wanted to be a real hero. He rushes past his fans, who are unable to recognize him without his costume and white hair, and he makes his way to Moon. Meanwhile, God Eye continues to torment Blankster, and he thinks the supporters are useless because they're so quick to change their beliefs. Lin suddenly arrives, and God Eye starts the broadcast again, telling Lin to introduce himself. So he tells everyone that Nice is dead, and he's just an ordinary guy named Lin, which shocks his fans. He tells them he worked in an advertising agency designing commercials for heroes, but one day, through a chance event, he became Nice and inherited his trust value. He mentions that it felt good at first, because he thought he was a hero, but he's decided to give up Nice's identity. Before he can finish his point, God Eye attacks him, since he thinks it's one of his PR stunts. He thinks that if Lin wants to apologize for faking his identity, he should also accept his punishment, and he tells God Eye to let Moon go, but he notes that she's guilty of helping him. Lin gets up, and notes that even if he doesn't have his powers or trust value, he'll still do his best to save her, but as he charges forward, God Eye easily blocks him and knocks him down. Lin knows that he doesn't stand a chance, but he continues to get back up, so everyone wonders if he's crazy. Moon's fans think that Nice died a long time ago, so the one who cried at their wedding must be Lin. Jae is also worried for him, since he already gave up their future, and she thinks he's about to get himself killed. The fans wonder why no one is helping him, so they realize it's because no one wants to get mixed up in the fake hero issue, and God Eye manages to knock him out. He notes that everyone should realize that there are no real heroes in their era, but Lin tells him to stop talking nonsense, and he once again tries to attack. But God Eye easily restrains him, telling him that without his fancy packaging, no one will cheer for a useless clown like him. But he notes that he doesn't need the support of others, because he believes that anyone can become a hero. He mentions that the moment when he truly felt like a hero was when he developed feelings for a person, so he would happily give up everything to protect her. He suddenly headbutts God Eye, allowing him to break free, and Lin manages to land a punch. God tries to analyze his weakness, but the system finds countless vulnerabilities, and he isn't sure which one to focus on. Lin is unable to stand straight, but he continues to attack God, which makes him wonder if his system has a bug. He tries to escape, but Lin grabs his leg, so he fights back, and he reminds Lin that he has defeated several heroes, asking him what makes him think he can challenge him as an ordinary person. The fans become emotional seeing the fight, and they start cheering for Lin, which increases his trust value, allowing him to fight back. Everyone's shocked by the sudden increase in his power, and God gets blown away, wondering where his power is coming from. The people are glued to their screens, and they start talking about the fight, while the other hero companies notice Lin's potential, so they consider inviting him to their side. Lin manages to knock out God, and Moon's fans realize he was the one who cried at the wedding, so he'd do anything to save her. Jae tells her boss that Lin's trust value has shot back to Nice's level, telling him she'll take care of everything by pinning it on God. Lin goes to check on Moon, but as he removes the tape from her mouth, she suddenly turns into a mannequin. He asks God where she is, so he mentions that he doesn't know either, and he only used her as bait so he could expose him. He gets arrested, and the association forms a special team to investigate the Spotlight organization, while Lin still stays in the top 10. After that, we see that Moon wished to go to a place where no one would recognize her, but she ended up getting stuck on a deserted island. She also left her portal gun, so she can't return to the city, but Lin suddenly arrives, telling her she was so excited that she forgot to take her gun with her. He asks her if she had fun, and she tells him that she doesn't want to have such a long vacation ever again, but the hero Isol suddenly shoots her, and Lin is left in shock. The story shifts to a boy named Chang, who sits beside his parents' bodies, and one of the killers wonders what they should do to him. His partner suggests selling him, but before they can take him, Isol suddenly arrives to save him. 16 years after the incident, we see Chang rushing on his bike as he tells his uncle Rock that he's going to meet his friend Sha. His uncle teases him for having a crush on her for years but not making a move, so he notes that he bought 2 tickets for her favorite singer's concert, and he's planning to ask her out. Rock reminds him about the Isol performance opportunity, but Chang tells him to give it to someone else since he's busy. Sha thanks Chang for helping her sort out the forms, but she notices that his career goal is blank, so he mentions that he has already found a job. He tries to ask her out, but they're suddenly interrupted by a boy named Chow, who shows her his form. She wonders why he listed several companies, when he's interested in starting his own business, so he mentions that they're the places where he has done internships. She becomes impressed hearing this, while Chang texts Rock to see if he can still make it to the performance. Shaw asks Chang what he was going to ask her, but he makes an excuse that he's getting late for his extra shift, and rushes out of there. Rock tells him that even though he won't be paid for the performance, people from the hero company Mighty Glory will be there. So if they take an interest in him, he might get a chance to perform alongside Isol for his 34th anniversary event. Chang performs wearing Isol's costume, but one of the kids named Pomelo complains about the performance, saying it isn't up to date. He notes that the costume is 5 years old, while the background is from 10 years ago, and the stories they used are 2 decades old, so they should get a refund for such a sloppy performance, and the other kids agree with him. After the show, Pomelo tells Chang that unlike the other Isol performers who wear fancy costumes, his suit is old, so he should stick to his classic act. But Pomelo's sister suddenly arrives, and he realizes it's Sha, so he quickly wears his helmet to hide his face, but she comes up to him and tells him that Pomelo liked his performance. She asks him if he's free tomorrow, because she wants to discuss something important with him, and he becomes flustered hearing this. Rock is happy that he's making progress, but he notes that she didn't see his face since he was wearing a mask. He tells Chang to be confident in his work and take her to his cafe, where he can confess to her at the special spot, which is considered lucky for couples. They're suddenly interrupted by 2 men, who demand money for the deliveries, but Rock tells them that he received dozens of complaints about them. He fires them, but they think he has no one else to handle the deliveries, so he points to Chang. They give him the delivery boxes, and bully him for thinking he's a hero, just because he's wearing a stupid costume. After finishing his new work, Chang returns home, where he tries upgrading his suit, but seeing that his trust score is still stuck at 0 breaks his heart. He mentions that the trust score is important in their world, but he still hopes he'll meet Isol one day. The next day, Chang meets Sha, who mentions that her brother always talks about him. She asks him to help Pomelo, because he mostly stays home, and he doesn't have any friends. She even offers to pay him extra, and he tells her it isn't necessary, but she insists, so he accepts the job. Chang meets Pomelo, and he quickly realizes that his sister sent him, but Chang tells him to cooperate with him for just an hour. He mentions that he also needs to go for the Esoul anniversary events training, which excites Pomelo, who thinks they should talk about that instead. He notes that his new suit can glow like the other Esoul suits, but Pomelo notes that the old one was better, since his gadgets are fake. Chang tries to explain that it's an actor's job to imitate, but Pomelo thinks he wasn't acting earlier, because it gave him the same vibe as the real Esoul. He mentions that he's mostly right about his vibes, like he gets the vibe that Chang likes his sister. But Chang tells him to keep it a secret, so Pomelo asks him to take him to see the Esoul event and buy him bubble tea. They discuss Esoul's slogan that the costume doesn't matter, and what's important is the courage and justice in one's heart. After that, Sha tells Chang she'll accompany Pomelo, and they'll both cheer for him, so he notes that Pomelo told him she likes Lucky Cyan. She reveals that she does, so he thinks about inviting her to the concert after the event and telling her about his true identity. The next day, Chang goes to Mighty Glory, where he notices several other candidates, and they're all welcomed by the person in charge of the competition. He reveals that the first judge is a famous journalist named Yang, while the next one is a 3-time recipient of the Hero Association Award named Marina, and the last one is Chow, who's an upcoming entrepreneur. Chang does his best on stage, and he manages to reach the top 3, but the manager tells his assistant to leave him since he has a trust rating of 0. On his way out, he notices Sha talking to Chow, and he decides to leave quietly without facing them. Meanwhile, the 2 delivery guys are traveling when their car breaks down, so they wonder how they'll manage the expenses. They suddenly receive a call for a high-paying job, but instead of delivering goods, they must deliver a body. At school, Sha asks Chang if he wants to go to the concert, and he thinks she's asking him out. But when she mentions that Chow's father gave them VIP tickets, he feels bad and hides his own tickets, telling her he doesn't like Lucky Cyan, so he won't be able to join her. After that, he sits in the street looking at the tickets when Pomelo arrives, asking him where he went after the competition. He mentions that he couldn't make it to the next round, and since he was too ashamed to face them, he decided to just leave. Pomelo wonders if Chang isn't going to the anniversary event, so he mentions that there's no point going, since Esoul would never notice him in such a large audience. He notes that everything he did was so he could face him proudly, but he hasn't been able to achieve anything. But Pomelo mentions that since he hasn't been able to fulfill his promise, he'll stop protecting his secret. Chang goes after him, but they're suddenly attacked by the delivery men, who kidnap Pomelo and get away in their van. Chang gets on a bike and chases after them, and he almost gets hit along the way. But just as they think they've gotten rid of him, he jumps on their windshield, causing the van to lose control, and they fall off the road. Chang grabs Pomelo and tries to escape, but he gets hit in the head, and the men start ganging up on him. He isn't able to defend himself, and he gets beaten up as his suit starts breaking. They ask him if he wants to be a hero, and continue beating him up, which reminds him of his childhood desire to be like Esoul, but everyone bullied him because he had no trust value. Chang continues to take a beating, but as he sees one of them going toward Pomelo, he gathers all of his courage to grab onto them and uses the electric current from his suit to shock them. Pomelo notices his bravery, since he's also hurting himself, and it reminds him why he thought Chang wasn't acting, because he gives the vibes of a real hero. The electric shock isn't strong enough to knock out the men, so they start beating him up again. But Pomelo calls him Esoul, and his strong trust in Chang gives him power. One of them rushes at him, but Chang manages to grab onto his neck and uses his electric current to send him flying at his partner. He rushes towards them and finishes them off with his electric punch, while Pomelo starts crying, telling him it's the most amazing performance he has ever seen. Chang takes Pomelo to Sha, and seeing her brother in such a state worries her, but he mentions that he's fine thanks to Esoul, and she asks him if he needs to go to the hospital, but he tells her he's fine. She thanks him, telling him she still doesn't know what to call him, so he takes off his helmet, and as he prepares to reveal his true identity to her, Chow suddenly interrupts them. She's surprised to see him, and she tries to stop Chang as he's about to leave, but Chow calls him by his real name and mentions that he's there for him. Chang goes to the police station, where they tell him that if he ever faces a similar situation, he should contact them instead of putting his life at risk. As he goes outside, he finds Sha waiting for him, and she thanks him once again, offering to take him to the hospital. But he declines, wondering why the delivery men were after Pomelo, and she mentions that she doesn't know. Chow arrives, and he notes that it must be because they needed money to support their livelihood, but she mentions that their family isn't rich. He thinks their parents being out of town could have made them an ideal target, and he gives everyone a drink, but Chang is shocked upon touching it. So Shaw tells him to go to the hospital, but Chow thinks it's a symptom of going viral, revealing there's a video of the incident, which was taken by people at the scene, and it already has over 1 million likes, so he asks Chang to check his trust value. They're surprised to see that his trust ranking has increased, and Shaw wonders if he's okay, so he mentions that his heart is beating, and he feels like he's being electrocuted. That evening, Chang messages Shaw, but she wonders why he's still contacting her from his hero profile, so he becomes embarrassed. She tells him that since the first time they met to discuss Pomelo at the bubble tea shop, she had a feeling that he was the person behind the mask. She notes that she accompanied Pomelo to see all his performances since she wanted to see the other side of him so that she could get to know him better. The next day, Chang takes Shaw to the tea shop, and they sit at the lucky table, but as he's placing their order, a kid notices him and asks to shake his hand. But Chang's powers makes his hair stand up, and it makes him so happy that he rushes to tell all of his friends. Rock sees it as a good business opportunity, so he tells the kids that they can meet Chang if they buy a drink. Once everyone is gone, Rock finally sits down to relax, and he mentions that Chang has gotten busy after going viral. So he needs to hire a manager, but he doesn't think he has the budget or any big plans, and Rock notes that he has already picked someone for him. Chow arrives, mentioning that he asked Rock to suggest someone he could work with, and Rock leaves after telling Chang that Chow has been interested in him. After that, we see Isol training, and his manager briefs him about the upcoming anniversary event. He mentions that he has already prepared a speech for him, and tells him the team is thinking of changing his slogan, but Isol decides against it. The manager notes that the popularity of the fake Isol is also growing, and he's already stolen around 1% of their fans, but Isol isn't bothered by it. Chow prepares a robotic arm for Chang so that he can control his current, but it doesn't work as planned, and Chow notes that they'll be able to steady the current once the new parts arrive. Chang wonders if it's wrong to be impersonating Isol, but Chow notes that in their world, heroes are chosen by the support of the people. He thinks Chang's fans see the unlimited potential in him, and reminds him that he was the one who saved Pomelo, so he deserves to be a hero. Chang and his friends look for crime in the city, and they soon hear about a bank robbery, so Chang defeats the robbers, which increases his public trust and popularity. But Chang's progress hurts the original Isol because he appeals to the younger audience, so the brands want to partner up with him instead. At the 34th Isol anniversary event, Isol launches his new action figure, but no one seems to be interested in it. The other journalists ask him questions about the rising popularity of the young Isol, but he refuses to answer them. Chang becomes popular with the children, and Chow thinks it's because he can stay Isol even when he removes his mask, while the real Isol never shows his face to the public. Chang and Shaw visit the tea shop, but she notices that he's looking at the news of his rising popularity, so she advises him not to get carried away. She reveals that Chow asked her out, which shocks him, and she wonders why he's so surprised, so he notes that it's nothing, but he asks her about her answer to Chow. She tells him that she hasn't decided yet, but they should go since Chow has prepared a surprise for them. On their way, she asks him why he lied about liking Lucky Cyan, because he said he doesn't listen to her music. He looks for his concert tickets, but he realizes that he forgot them at home, so he doesn't tell her the truth. They finally arrive at the location, and Chow shows them their new lab, which he built using his father's investment. He notes that Chang's growing popularity convinced his father to invest in them, and he plans to make improvements if they get ranked on the Hero Commission. Shaw wonders if Chang has thought about moving to the Hero Tower after he gets ranked, but he notes that he hasn't thought about it, since it still feels like a dream to him. Chang goes outside to get some air, and Shaw joins him, asking him to promise her that whatever happens in the future, he will face himself with courage and honesty. But before he can say anything, police cars suddenly stop in front of them, and they tell Chang he's under arrest. The police tell him that the kidnappers have accused him of staging the whole scene, and told them that he promised to share his profits after he became a hero. But Chang denies it, and he notes that he doesn't even know them, so they show him a picture of their interaction when he made the deliveries. Chow realizes they can't sit idle, so he starts a petition in Chang's favor, which gains thousands of supporters. The police take Chang to meet Mike Glory's representatives, and he's surprised to see that Shaw is there instead of Chow. Isol's manager tells them they'll forgive them if Chang gives up his hero identity and makes a public apology, but Shaw objects to it, since she thinks they didn't violate any laws. She mentions that Chang became a hero because people wished for it, but the manager mentions that Chang had a trust value of 0 before using Isol's title and popularity. He tells them one last time to give up on the identity, or he'll be forced to take legal action, but Chow suddenly arrives with new evidence. He presents the dash cam footage of the robbers' van, which shows that they received a call from someone to kidnap Pomelo, but Isol's manager refuses to believe that it wasn't Chang. Enlighter arrives, revealing that it was an encrypted call, and he explains that an ordinary university student wouldn't have the skills or finances to do that. After that, Chow praises Shaw for handling the pressure well, but she thinks it was good thinking to hire Enlighter. He tells her that it was all thanks to his dad's connections, and he wonders if Chang is ready, because his fans are waiting for him outside. He's shocked to see such a large crowd gathered to support him, and they all call him Isol, so he becomes emotional. At Rock's tea shop, a man sees the news, and he notes that Chang is nothing compared to the original Isol, because he has been through countless fights to become a hero. But Rock tells him that times have changed, and they must get used to playing with the new rules. Chow calls Chang and Shaw to come to the lab, but since it's raining, they stop at the bus station. He apologizes for lying to her, so she reminds him that he should be brave and face himself honestly, telling him she'll support him unconditionally if he does that. Meanwhile, Chow looks at the new suit he prepared for Chang, and he puts on the mask, but as he opens the shutter, he finds a man holding a gun in front of him. Chang and Shaw also arrive, but before Chang can get there, the man kills Chow, thinking he was the new Isol. At the funeral, Chang meets Chow's father, who mentions that if he feels regret in his heart, he should search for the murderer instead of waiting for forgiveness. Chang tells him that he needs his help, revealing that he already knows the murderer's identity, since he saw the scar on his neck, which he gave to one of the kidnappers. Chang starts investigating the kidnappers, and Shaw wonders why he's doing it himself, so he mentions that he can't trust the police, since the killer was supposed to be locked up. But he suddenly receives a call and leaves, telling her there's something important he must do. Chang holds a press conference, where he reveals that the 2 kidnappers weren't in jail, and the agent responsible for the case is missing. He believes the agent was killed to close loose ends, and he mentions that he always admired Isol, but he thinks that the scales can't be balanced by relying only on one side. So he chooses not to rely on others, and decides to fight Isol on his 34th anniversary. Isol's manager tells him about the challenge, and he thinks it would be a great way to boost his trust ranking, but Isol doesn't seem to care about it. His manager mentions that people are already calling him the old Isol, and if he doesn't respond, it's only a matter of time before he becomes an old man. Meanwhile, Chang practices for his upcoming fight, and Rock is impressed by his punching power, so Shaw notes that his gloves were designed by Chow. But Rock mentions that unlike the training dummy, Isol won't just stand there, and he'll also fight back. Rock thinks Mike Glory's technology is much more advanced, and it even has a perfect guard mode, so he thinks Chang doesn't stand a chance once Isol activates the power of his suit. But Chang is confident in his abilities, and Shaw tells him to rest, but he mentions that he must become faster than Isol, because it's the only way he can get through his defenses. Rock wonders if they can make Isol lower his guard, but Shaw thinks it won't be easy to affect his thinking, so Rock tells them they won't need that. All they need him to do is use his signature move Lightning Slash, which will leave him wide open, but Chang thinks he won't use it, since he's aware of its weakness. Shaw thinks they should back down from the fight, because it might be the enemy's strategy to anger him, so that they can regain their morale. Rock tells Chang that he has an idea to make Isol use the Lightning Slash, but for their plan to work, Chang needs to land his attack before Isol hits him. Chang takes Shaw to the beach, and she reminds him that the first time she saw him at school, he had a muddy uniform, because it got dirty while he was trying to save a cat. She asks him if he still remembers his promise, so he mentions that he does, but he notes that things are different now. He explains that he must carry the trust of thousands of people, and thinks that if he runs away, they'll need to compromise with crime and evil. She notes that it isn't running, and she cries as she leaves, so he runs after her. The fight day finally arrives, and everyone's excited about the showdown between the old and new Isol. The commentators note that the new Isol's trust rating has already exceeded the old one, so the deciding factor for the fight will be the public's reaction to their performance. The fight begins as Lucky Cyan starts performing, and Cheng rushes to attack the old Isol, but his high-speed attacks are ineffective because of Isol's advanced defense system. Isol's counterattack pushes Cheng back, and it even damages his suit, but he charges back in at full speed. Isol turns his lightning into a whip, and he attacks Cheng, who's unable to defend himself against the long-range attack. Cheng once again goes on the offensive, and he runs around Isol as he shoots lightning attacks. He tests his defense system by charging at him with full speed, but Isol easily blocks him and smashes him against the walls. Isol's manager tells him that he can't fight with his current style, since everyone's talking about how he hasn't used his lightning slash in a long time. We learn that it was Rock's idea to create pressure on Isol by telling everyone to talk about it, and he even sold his shop to pay them. Isol continues attacking from a distance, but Cheng manages to close the distance, and he breaks through Isol's armor. Everyone's impressed by Cheng, and Isol's manager tells him to stop being on the defensive, because his supporters are starting to take Cheng's side. The fight starts to exhaust both of them, and Isol decides to use his lightning slash, but Cheng is prepared for it. He rushes forward with incredible speed, and he recalls that when the shooter was pointing his gun at Chow, the selfish thoughts of him being with Saw made him slow down, so he couldn't save him. But he manages to reach Isol before he can land his lightning slash, and he attacks him with everything he has, creating a massive explosion, which puts an end to the Isol era. We go back to when Cheng asked Rock about what makes the lucky seat in the shop so special, so he mentions that it's the view and the lighting. He reveals that he just placed a table there, and everyone started treating it like it was special. We learn that Rock is actually one of Might Glory's senior executives, who rejected Cheng during the anniversary event because of his zero trust value. He was the one who told the kidnappers to take Pomelo, and after they were caught, he set one of them free, telling him to kill Cheng in exchange for his brother's life. But he failed to do it, so he tied both of them onto a crane and drowned them in cement. The old Isol dies, and his trust rating merges with Cheng, who takes his place at the Hero Tower, where Rock comes to meet him, telling him that the view from the top is different. We see a plane crashing into the woods, and the disaster is unmatched since the founding of the Hero Association, so the authorities set up a special team to investigate it. The firefighters stop the reporters from getting closer to the crash site, but one of them named Lou passes through, since he's dressed as a firefighter. He finds it strange that accidents like this are still occurring in their world, but as he takes his pictures, he suddenly hears a child crying, and he finds a little girl under the rubble. Lou takes her to his friend's orphanage and asks him to take care of her, since her parents died in the plane crash. He wonders why they didn't hear of a survivor in the news, so Lou explains that it's because he found her first and snuck off before anyone could see them. His friend wonders why he did it, so he reveals that the plane crash wasn't an ordinary disaster, and it was a much bigger scandal. We go back to when Lou wrote an article on the plane crash and called it the hero's collective failure, but his boss scolds him for it because she thinks spreading such news would affect trust values and make the situation worse. She tells him they should call it an accident and notes that he's about to be transferred, but he chooses to resign from his job instead. We return to the present, as the dean tells Lou that he'll take care of the girl, and they notice that she's playing with the nurse. They go outside, and seeing her win all the games makes the dean think that she's lucky, but Lou isn't sure if she's lucky or unfortunate, since she's left all alone. The dean wonders what they should call her, and Lou suggests naming her Cyan, because of the color of her hair. Cyan becomes popular among the kids, after she helps one of them get his favorite card, but it makes all the other kids jealous, so they all ask for her help. The nurse named Zhao notices them, and she tells them to stop bothering Cyan, so they all run away. But she takes out a piece of paper and asks Cyan to pick a spot where she thinks treasure might be hidden. Zhao buys a new house based on the location Cyan marked, and it brings good fortune to her life, so she tells her colleagues about it, which makes them jealous. A girl named Chi asks Cyan to pick the best guy for her to marry out of the 3 options, and the one she chooses turns out to be secretly rich, so Chi's life instantly improves. Everyone starts asking Cyan for help, and Zhao even brings a lady from outside, so that Cyan can help her recover from her illness. But the dean notices her taking money, and he's disappointed in her, telling Cyan to tell him if anyone tries to bother her. After 5 years, we see that Cyan has become the face of the orphanage, where she sings and blesses charms, which bring good fortune to people. The dean notes that he never thought they would be able to help such a wide audience, and he gives her all the credit, telling her she has brought happiness to everyone. Cyan is treated with respect by the other children, but it stops her from having fun like a normal child. While walking, she hears a radio program where a woman is talking about the conflict between heroes and how it has brought disasters upon people. She realizes that the voice is coming from the room of the new boy named Luo, and he invites her to sit next to him, but she asks him who's talking on the radio. So he mentions that it's an older girl who claims that she'll change the world by becoming the #1 hero. We see that the girl is Lu's daughter, who was talking at the graduation ceremony earlier, and she mentions that if she's to be the #1 hero, she must get used to being the center of attention. But Lu reminds her to have her ego under control, telling her about his plans for her future, but she notes that she wishes to be in the top 10 by the time she turns 18. Luo asks Cyan why she's dressed so differently, so she notes that she must wear it for her singing sessions, which makes him realize that she's the sacred maiden. She wonders if he's new, since she has never seen him before, so he mentions that he just transferred from another orphanage. He reveals that he's known as the infamous Calamity, and we see Zhao asking the dean why he allowed Luo to join them, because he brings bad luck wherever he goes. He tells her he wouldn't be operating an orphanage if he were afraid of trouble, and he notes that they should treat everyone equally, because they've become a symbol of hope in people's hearts. Cyan plays with Luo, but he's disappointed when she wins all the games, so he wonders why she's so lucky, but she mentions that she doesn't know. He checks her trust score, and he's surprised to see such a huge number, asking her how she got it, but she notes it's been there since she was little. He shows his trust score, but even though it's only in the double digits, he mentions that it shows he also has special powers. She wonders why his score is so low, so he thinks it might be the difference between boys and girls, but he's confident it will increase as he grows up, telling her he wants to become a hero. She notes that the dean told her she's like a hero, since she's using her good luck to help others, but she doesn't like it, because she wants to have friends, and dress however she likes. He becomes surprised hearing this, and he takes her down the hall, where he tells her to throw a marble, which will free her from the curse of good luck. After a year, everyone gathers in the church, but Cyan arrives late, telling Zhao she prepared a new song. She begins with her usual performance, but she suddenly removes her robe and starts performing with Luo. Everyone's shocked at the sudden change, but they wonder if their wishes will be fulfilled, and the dean tells Zhao to stop it immediately, but Cyan and Luo manage to escape. We return to the moment he gave her the marble, and he asks her to close her eyes as she throws it, but she ends up triggering the fire alarm, which soaks both of them with water. He tells her that good luck isn't always perfect, and they both laugh as they enjoy the moment. Cyan and Luo are about to leave the orphanage, but the dean uses his powers to close the door, telling them he won't allow them to ruin his dream of helping people to become a hero. We go back to when Luo showed Cyan his guitar, and he reveals that the dean gave it to him because he didn't cause trouble for an entire year. He starts playing it, and they see lights coming out, but he thinks they're just decorations to make the performer look cool, and he tells her to try it out. He sings as she plays the guitar, and he asks her if his voice has improved, but she thinks it hasn't changed at all. He tells her to show him how to sing, but she explains that she needs to rest because she still needs to rehearse for her weekly performance. He thinks she's wasting her talents, since she just sings for the church, but Zhao tells him to stop making noise, because it's getting late. He explains that he was just reciting his textbook, but she tells him to go to sleep, and Cyan notes that she's annoying. He tells her about the rumors that the dean built the orphanage to nurture heroes, and we learn that he used to be a hero himself, but it was only for a short time. Luo thinks he wants her to be a hero, but she explains that she isn't interested, and tells him she needs to head back before Zhao makes her rounds again. As they make their way to her room, they see a courier talking to a man, who mentions that the sacred maiden is just an ordinary girl, but the dean is raising her to become his good luck charm. The courier thinks he's joking, but he explains that the dean told him he wants to sustain his failed hero lifestyle by keeping her in the orphanage. Cyan overhears their conversation, so she starts crying, and Luo suggests that they escape together. We return to the present, as the dean tells Cyan he won't let her leave, and Luo tries to escape with her, but the dean uses his invisible arms to grab her. He tells her he had high expectations for her, and explains that it's hard to gain trust value, but Luo charges in, and attacks him with his guitar. He manages to free her, but the dean restrains him, and he tells her to make a run for it, so she tries to get away, but she ends up getting surrounded. Luo tells her not to give up, because she's the luckiest person alive, and Truckun suddenly crashes through. We learn that the driver fell asleep, and he tries to stop the truck, while Luo grabs onto the dean, reminding him that he has bad luck. The truck crashes into them, and Cyan becomes worried, but Zhao tries to catch her, so she quickly gets away. The driver starts to panic, but he realizes that nobody died thanks to the dean's powers, while everyone wonders why the sacred maiden ran away. Cyan reaches a city, where her shoes break, and she starts crying, hoping Luo is okay. She plays the guitar, and sings his song called My Color, which reminds her of the moments she spent with him, so she becomes determined to save him. A stranger gives her a coin, and she uses it to play the lottery, but she ends up losing, because her trust value has reached 0, so she's no longer the luckiest person in the world. She realizes that she needs money to survive, so she starts performing in the streets, and the people enjoy listening to her. So they gather around her and give her coins, as she continues to sing in front of them. She eventually makes a small fortune, and a man gives her a new pair of shoes, to replace the ones she broke. She now has the money to buy everything she needs, but as she gains popularity, the people start to recognize her as the sacred maiden. So they think they'll get lucky if they listen to her songs, and they gather in the streets to watch her perform. The head of a hero company finds her interesting, and Lu tells him she's the only one who survived a plane crash when she was little. So he realizes that luck is her superpower, and he thinks about recruiting her as a hero. She sees her followers praying to her, and they start calling her the sacred maiden, so she becomes sad and runs away, begging them to stop following her. Cyan reaches an alley, where she meets a strange woman, and she tells her to stop idolizing her, because she no longer has the power to bring good fortune. But the woman tells her to check her trust value, and she realizes it's in the 5 digits. The woman introduces herself as Keen, and invites Cyan to join her company as a hero, which reminds her of Luo, since he wanted to become a hero when he grew up. She agrees to join if Keen helps her find him in the future, and she accepts her condition, telling her they should sit together to discuss everything. After that, we see Luo listening to the radio, and he hears a program about Cyan, realizing she's now a popular hero. He learns that she has also become a successful singer, and she's scheduled to have her first concert, which her fans are dying to attend, but the tickets are already sold out. Luo is glad that she's doing well, but the dean suddenly joins him, telling him to forget about her. He mentions that there's something Luo needs to learn about her, and he whispers it into his ear, but he's shocked as he hears it. Cyan's fans gather for her concert, and she puts up a stunning performance, so everyone cheers for her. She mentions that she hasn't been on stage for a long time, telling everyone her last performance wasn't a pleasant experience. But she's glad that she was able to perform with her friend, who taught her how to play the guitar and made her fall in love with music. Her fans wonder who she's talking about, but she reveals that he taught her a song he wrote, as well as the determination to become a hero. She plays her guitar as she sings the song he taught her, and her fans seem to enjoy it, but as she continues her performance, we see that everyone in the orphanage has turned into monsters. We go back to when Cyan met her boss, who reveals that the company has prepared a new costume for her, and even made modifications to her guitar. He explains that it's now equipped with the latest technology, which will amplify her abilities, and he wonders if she likes her new character. Keen explains that their audience prefers strong and independent women, so they've decided to get rid of her image as the sacred maiden and turn her into a battle angel who brings good fortune through her music. Her guitar suddenly transforms into a bow, and her boss explains that it's her new custom weapon, but she mentions that she doesn't know how to fight. So Keen tells her they've arranged training sessions for her, and they're confident that she'll transform into a real hero in no time. But her boss warns her not to tell anyone about her past, because words have a huge impact in this world. We return to the present, as Cyan heads to her van, and the driver tells her she did an excellent job. But she asks him to drop her somewhere before they return to their company, telling him she just needs a moment. They head to the orphanage, and the driver tells Cyan to make it quick, but as she's about to open the door, the dean suddenly appears behind her. He wonders what she's doing there, telling her the orphanage started falling apart after she left, and he notes that the children don't have enough to eat. He blames her for what's happening, and she notes that she's willing to help them, but he doesn't believe her, because he knows that she didn't return to give them gifts. She reveals that she wants to see Luo, but the dean tells her to forget about him, because he would only become a burden to her, telling her the orphanage doesn't need her help. He leaves her outside, and he's glad that Luo heard everything, telling him it's time to go back. We learn that the dean told him that she was the only survivor from the flight where his parents died, and her power to bring good luck comes at a price, which is the misfortune of others. Everyone learns about it, so they start blaming her for their misfortune, thinking they're suffering because of her powers. Her fans think she stole their good luck during her concerts, so they start asking for refunds, and the people harass the orphanage because they believe it's the source of their misfortune. A number of food poisoning incidents occur at the orphanage, and the public thinks it's cursed, since Cyan was raised there. But they think the curse has spread to the entire district because disasters are being reported everywhere, so they want the orphanage to close down. The dean starts to lose his mind, thinking Cyan ruined his life, and he recalls that Lu told him she joined a hero company. But he becomes upset hearing this, because he thinks she should return to the orphanage. Lu explains that she ran away, so she's no longer under his control, telling him he was hoping she would live a peaceful life. But now that she's famous, he asks the dean to help him keep her background a secret. But the world learns about it, and everyone in the orphanage blames her for their misfortune, causing them to transform into monsters. We return to Cyan, as she realizes that her trust value is dropping, so her team becomes worried, because she might drop out of the commission if it continues. Keen notes that her fans are asking for refunds, and she wonders if they should cancel her concert to cut their losses, but the boss thinks it will only make things worse. Cyan suggests holding a press conference, where she can tell everyone the truth, but he's convinced that the rumors are true, asking her to explain why she has the power of good fortune. But the hero named Queen suddenly joins them, and they're glad she has already recovered, because she just lost her ranking match to an unknown person. Cyan apologizes for bringing her misfortune, but Queen tells her it isn't true, because her songs helped her recover. She mentions that the people are blaming Cyan for the plane crash, but she reveals that everything can be explained through a recording, which Lu gave to the dean. Cyan decides to look for it, but Keen mentions that the entire district is in chaos, telling her to leave it to the other heroes, because her trust value is still dropping. But she decides to do it anyway, and the boss grants her permission, thinking it's their chance to turn the tables. She dashes past the civilians, as she wonders what's wrong with them, but as she enters a tunnel, she realizes that Truck Kun is about to hit her, because the driver turned into a monster. She uses her shoes to scale the wall, and jumps on top of the truck, but she sees other cars blocking the path. So she uses her guitar to make their drivers regain control, and they all let her pass. We cut to Lu, as he talks to her boss, who mentions that fear has always been in the district, but Cyan's speech gave them an opening to strike. Lu notes that secrets are about to be exposed, but the boss thinks it's perfect, saying that fortune smiles upon those who are prepared. Cyan reaches the orphanage, but she realizes that everyone has turned into monsters, so she jumps away and transforms her guitar into its bow form. She restrains Zhao with her arrows, and she realizes that the dark substance on their shoulders is corrupting them. But they start chasing after her, so she runs away, as she fires her arrows at them and manages to destroy the mask controlling their bodies. But the dean's invisible arms suddenly pull her away, and he tells her she's the reason why he turned into a monster, so he wants to make her suffer. She takes out her bow and fires an arrow that destroys his arms and hits him in the chest. She uses her spray to mark an area where she can dodge his attacks, and he tries to crush her with his arms, but she jumps away and hits him with another arrow. He immediately recovers and attacks her with his full strength, but she cuts through his attack and manages to close the distance. She smashes him with incredible force, knocking him out, but her guitar breaks apart, and she notes that she still needs to find the file, so she tells her yo-yo to help her look for it. It shows her the path and leads her to the dean's room, where she finds the recording, but she suddenly hears Luo's voice. He blames her for his bad luck, thinking he was a fool for trusting her, and he believes she's the reason why his parents died. She tells him it isn't true, but he doesn't believe her and starts to attack her. She dashes past him and heads to a computer, where she tries to play the recording, but he suddenly appears behind her and ends up destroying it. He prepares to finish her off, but she asks him if he still remembers the marble he gave her, and she uses it to hit the fire alarm, causing the sprinkler to activate. But the computer suddenly turns on, and it plays her recording. We go back to the moment the plane was about to crash, and the pilot reports that he has lost control, so the passengers realize they're doomed. Cyan starts crying, and Luo's parents reveal that they have a child around the same age, but they're sad because they won't be able to see him again. Luo's father sings to calm her down, and his mother reveals that it's the song they sing whenever Luo is crying, telling Cyan she must survive. All of the passengers want her to live because they think she's too young to die, and they pray that she'll get lucky and survive the crash, so that she can carry on their wishes. We learn that Cyan never believed Luo wrote My Color, because she had heard it before, so she knew that he copied it from someone. Back in the present, Luo regains control after he hears the recording, and he starts crying, realizing he was wrong about her. After that, the public learns the truth about Cyan, and a reporter notes that her powers came from the wishes of all the victims who died during the crash. So she regains her popularity, and becomes the rank 7 hero. The orphanage is also reopened, and the authorities investigate the energy called fear, which caused the people to turn into monsters. Lu thinks he was right to trust Cyan's boss, but he tells Lu not to let his guard down, because they aren't the only ones who are secretly looking into fear. We see Lu's daughter Yue, as she goes to take a university entrance exam, and everyone thinks she's in the wrong place since she's too young. The test begins, and the examiner is confused when Yue finishes the test in 30 minutes, but she's shocked to see that Yue got a perfect score. Lu is waiting for her outside, and he asks her how she did on the test, but she notes that she needs to hurry because she plans to finish university in 2 years. She manages to achieve her goal and become the youngest person to graduate from the university, but during her graduation speech, she tells everyone she doesn't like being called a genius. She explains that the reason she wanted to finish the university in 2 years is because she believes she can become a hero and change the world. We see 2 people in a bar laughing at her, but the bartender is angry and tells them to do something with their lives. Yue notes that it's been 28 years since the Fall of the Dawn incident, and during that time, they've been protected by the heroes, but they've also faced disasters because of their conflicts. The Commission has done their best to resolve the situation, but they've failed because heroes are created by the people, so their will can't be defined. She thinks she can create a new order once she reaches the rank 1 position of Hero X, and the CEO of the hero agency DOS is surprised that she dares to say it in front of everyone. His assistant Keen thinks Yue is even more delusional than her father, but Mickey mentions that she shouldn't underestimate her. Keen shows him how a dispute between 2 heroes caused problems between men and women, so she thinks it isn't the right time to make Yue popular, but he thinks she'll lead a new wave of female heroes to rise. Everyone talks about Yue's speech, and people have started calling her the Hero Queen because she gave confidence to girls to become heroes. The DOS announces that they have signed her as a hero, and they'll support her in achieving her dream of becoming Hero X. The news analysts mention how there hasn't been a female Hero X in a long time, and the highest rated female hero named Boa goes on a podcast to talk about the current situation. We learn that her popularity has increased after Queen's interview, so she's about to enter the top 10 in hero rankings, and more girls have started wishing to become heroes. So DOS changes its image to support female heroes, and it becomes the top hero management company. At the 16th annual hero ranking competition, Boa prepares to face the previous year's Hero X named Extro, and as the match begins, she immediately tries to hit him with her axe, but he stops it with his hands. He kicks her away, sending her flying into a wall, and he starts raining fireballs on her, but she manages to dodge them. She rushes towards him, but she can't land a single hit, so she charges up her weapon and attacks him, destroying everything around them. He's surprised by her power, and she uses the chance to grab him, smashing him to the ground. She powers up her weapon again, and he tries to block it, but she manages to overpower him, so she wins the match and becomes Hero X. Mickey congratulates Boa and Queen, and he can't believe how much progress DOS has made, since he's been competing with his rival Mike Glory for such a long time. But thanks to them, he has gotten far ahead of the competition, and he tells Boa to thank Queen, because she became Hero X thanks to her speech. But she mentions that she won't pass over the title of X to Queen, and she knows that Queen helped her reach her goal, but she also worked hard for it, so she deserves everything she's getting. He reminds her that he was the one who picked her, and he knows the secret sacrifices she made, but Queen tells him to stop threatening Boa, because she'll earn the title of X in the future. He tells her she's misunderstanding him, because he's just worried that they might start fighting over the top ranking, so he's just giving Boa a gentle reminder. After they leave, Boa tells Queen that no amount of words will make her a hero, and she notes that she already knows it, so she doesn't want to waste her time talking with Boa. She becomes angry and tries to attack Queen, so she uses her power to freeze her, but she still manages to move, which surprises Queen. But a cat suddenly arrives, and she lets Boa go, as a hero named Little Johnny comes looking for it. Queen tries to leave, but she can't look away from the cat, because she finds it too cute. He lets her hold it, and seeing how much it likes her, he thinks it must be destiny that they met, so he invites her to his floor. We learn that San resigned, and he ended up making the Treeman Corporation, which focuses on developing heroes. Because of the company called FOMO, which provides people with a convenient method of communication, regular people are showcasing themselves and becoming heroes. New hero management companies are created as a result, and they no longer stick to traditional methods due to the media revolution, which is why they need to create an environment capable of dealing with the future. Rock resigns from FOMO, and he agrees to take over Might Glory, so everyone's looking forward to what he can do for the company. Queen is watching the news in Johnny's room, but the cat steps on the remote and changes the channel to where Cyan is singing. They go to meet her, and as Cyan pets the cat, Johnny wonders if it means they'll have good luck, but she explains that she doesn't know how her power works. He thinks she should bless Queen to make sure she wins against Boa, but she refuses, because she doesn't want people to say she won because she got lucky. At the 18th Hero Ranking event, Queen is surprised to see that Boa has already been eliminated, so her opponent is another hero, whose name hasn't been entered in the roster. She prepares to fight, but she's instantly defeated, and she doesn't even know what happened. At night, Queen is holed up in her room, since she hasn't experienced failure before, and she sees people making fun of her on TV. Mickey calls Lou, telling him he doesn't know anything about the hero who defeated her, so he'll go to meet him. But as he reaches the top floor of the hero tower, he's surprised to see that it's completely overgrown with plants. As Queen checks her phone, she sees news about how people have started going against Cyan after her past was exposed. There are rumors that she was hired by Queen to make sure she defeats Boa, but she didn't expect to be affected by Cyan's bad luck. Boa watches the same news, but she throws her dumbbell at the TV because she thinks Queen is using underhanded tactics to take the title of X. Boa thinks about how ever since she was a kid, she told herself that the only way to be successful is to work hard, because she knew that she was born without talent. She trained harder than everyone else, and became the youngest female agent in the commission, but her goal was to be liked by everyone and become a hero. She remembers the time she got shot, and she tells herself that she didn't come back from the brink of death, just to lose to a cheater. She thinks about how Queen is using her father's relationship with Mickey to achieve her goals, which makes her angry, so the fear energy gathers around her, and ends up causing an explosion. Meanwhile, Johnny puts food outside Queen's room, and we learn that he's worried about her, since she hasn't come out for days. He mentions that Cyan isn't doing well because of the rumors, and he tells Queen that she shouldn't believe anything she hears, because Cyan needs people to trust her. After he leaves, Lou talks to Queen, and reveals that he was the one who found Cyan in the plane wreckage. But instead of alerting the authorities, he sent her to his friend's orphanage, because he didn't want people to judge her. He prepares to go to the commission, because he thinks there might be something he can do to solve the situation, but Queen suddenly comes out of her room. She asks him how he plans to fix everything, so he reveals that the commission tried to hide what happened during the plane crash, but he knows where to find a recording of what happened on the plane. After that, Queen heads to Mickey's office, where Cyan is also present, and she apologizes to Queen for not bringing her good luck, but she mentions that her singing helped her through her depression. She thanks Cyan, because her song made her hear an inner voice that she had never heard before, and she tells everyone there's a recording from the plane crash at the orphanage's office. After a while, we see a lab tech who has been corrupted by fear, and he causes explosions around the city. A car is about to fall on innocent civilians, but Queen comes to their rescue, and she starts chasing after him. He tries to hit her with his missiles, but she dodges all of them and defeats him by throwing her spear at him. After that, she gets a call from Johnny, who wonders if she's coming back, because he and Cyan are waiting for her. He's surprised that she's still out on a mission, even though the ranking tournament is about to begin, and he reminds her how she refused Cyan's blessing last time. But she needs to make sure Cyan blesses her before the tournament, because it might affect the results. Boa suddenly arrives, and she thinks Queen will use dirty tactics to win the tournament, so she thinks they should fight before it. Queen dodges all of her attacks and kicks her away, but Boa fights on, and her strikes are so powerful that they're destroying everything around them. Queen tries to block her attacks, but Boa sends her flying and follows up by smashing her into the ground, but Queen quickly recovers. Boa rushes towards her, and Queen uses her power to freeze her, but it only works in a small area, so Boa extends her weapon and hits Queen from the side. She reminds Boa that the commission will punish her for attacking a hero before a ranking match, but she thinks Queen doesn't have the right to judge her since she's using underhanded tactics. They continue to clash with each other, but Queen lands a hit, which sends her smashing across the tower. She attacks with her spear, but Boa gets out of the way and pushes her head against a wall, but she strikes back and sends Boa flying. She uses her weapon to swing towards Queen and punches her away, but she lands on her feet and uses her powers to lift the containers. But Boa is able to close the distance and she blows her away. Queen is confused because Boa's trust value is lower than before, but her attacks are only getting stronger. Boa notes that Queen was handed everything her whole life, while she fought hard to get to where she is. So she won't lose and give up the title of X, but Queen reminds her that she no longer holds that title. As the fight continues, Queen kicks Boa away, but she extends her weapon and grabs her foot, smashing her into a ship. She starts beating Queen up, and the force from her attacks is so powerful that she blows the ship into pieces. But Queen fights on, and fires spears of light, so Boa deflects them and she charges in again. But Queen blocks her attack, and hits her with a powerful laser, which destroys anything it touches, but it doesn't affect Boa, who starts attacking even more recklessly. But Queen activates her ultimate skill. Boa is mortally wounded, but she still tries to push the spear out because she refuses to lose to someone like Queen. She's determined to win the tournament and regain the title of X, but Queen reminds her that she's fallen out of the top 10, so she can't participate in the tournament, which makes her cry. The authorities arrive, and they take Queen to the hospital since she's unconscious. After she wakes up, she tries to get to the tournament, but the nurse reveals that it's already over because she's been asleep for a few days. She watches the news and realizes that the mysterious hero won once again, but Cyan arrives and hugs her, telling her not to be so hard on herself. After Queen heals from her injuries, Mickey sends her on a vacation, and Cyan joins her as well. We see Queen driving a car, and she thinks she's just wasting her time since she needs to get to the top of the rankings, but Cyan tells her to enjoy her vacation. She wonders if Queen has any friends besides her and Johnny, but she reveals that ever since she was a kid, she believed in nobody but herself. She thanks Cyan because she helped her hear the other voice in her heart, and Cyan wonders what she's talking about, but a monster suddenly appears in front of them. We see a girl named Loli who's working out at a gym, but as her trainer tries to help her, he ends up knocking her hat off. Everyone's surprised that she's a girl, and the weight she's trying to lift suddenly starts to feel heavy as she loses trust value, and she's angry that they're judging her. We go back to when Loli was a kid, and she's excited to see the speech Queen gave at her graduation. So she goes to her mother, telling her she'll become a hero when she grows up, which makes her happy. She takes out her phone and tells Loli to say it again so that she can record it for the future. In the present, we see Loli as she returns home, and her mother tries to show her the video, but Loli tells her to stop calling her cute because she's already 16. Her mother notes that as her parent, she'll always be her #1 fan, but Loli just goes up to her room. We go back to when Loli saved her friend Zong from bullies, and she hits one of them with a toy crossbow she found in her basement. The boy tries to take the arrow off his head, but she mentions that it's impossible to remove, and it also keeps getting heavier, so it will make him bow down and apologize. He suddenly takes out a love letter, and notes that he only bullies Zong to get her attention, because he didn't have the courage to give it to her, which surprises her. After that, Loli wonders if someone with her appearance can become a hero, but Zong tells her she's cute. So if she doesn't meet the criteria that people look for in a hero, she can't force them to think otherwise. He starts going through his bag, which makes her wonder if he's also about to give her a love letter, so she runs away, but he just takes out an umbrella. In the present, she thinks about cutting her hair, so that people will take her seriously, but she can't bring herself to do it. She doesn't understand why she needs to change herself, and as she's feeling depressed, she sees a masked hero on TV, and comes up with an idea. She immediately goes to her lab, where she starts to make a suit, which will hide her face. At night, a girl is being chased by a man, and as she runs into Loli, she asks her for help, but she thinks Loli's also a creep because of her suit, so she assures the girl that she's a hero. The man takes out a knife and rushes towards her, so she blocks his attack, but it's so powerful that it breaks the ground. She takes off using her jetpack, and punches him away, but he continues to attack her. So she tries to swing away using the wires from her suit, but he cuts them off, and she's about to crash into the ground, so she uses a rubber ball to soften the landing. He kicks her helmet off, but seeing her face, he bows before her and runs away. Loli struggles to stay on her feet because her suit has been damaged, and she tells the girl to get the HAC to investigate why she was being followed. But the girl mentions how she didn't think there was such a cute person underneath the mask, which annoys Loli, so she picks up her helmet and leaves. As she reaches her home, she sees that her stuff is being carried outside, and her father Tan notes that he didn't think she was using the lab to create such dangerous things. She reminds him that he's never watched over her, so he doesn't need to interfere with her life, but he tells her he already cleared out the basement. She notes that he has no right to take away everything she's worked on, and she mentions that her goal is to help people, but he tells her the weapons and equipment she's working on aren't toys. She sees Zong going through her stuff, so she tries to stop him, but her father tells her if she really wants to work on such things, she can come work at the Glimmer Lab. The next day, Zong gives her a tour of the lab, and he takes her to the experimental warehouse where he works. He tells her he saw her blueprints, so he knows that she wants to create a super armor, which makes her excited, but after he reveals the mech he created, she isn't impressed by it. A girl named Juan teases Zong that he brought someone new to check out his inventions, but he tells her to stop being sarcastic, and Loli realizes that Juan is the same girl that she saved. They're both excited to see each other, and Zong thinks they can help him create his ultimate warrior, but they tell him he shouldn't get ahead of himself. After that, Juan helps Loli fix the part of the suit that was broken, and she mentions that it's her way of thanking Loli for saving her. She doesn't understand why Juan is working at a warehouse, even though she's a genius, so she reveals that she started working there as a receptionist. She thinks people's first impression of her affects their judgment, so when she had her interview, they decided to hire her as their receptionist because she was cute. She notes that Tan changed her life, because after seeing her resume, he couldn't believe she was working as a receptionist, so he decided to let her work with him. Loli is surprised that her father cares about other people, because he wouldn't even know if his daughter burned down the house, but Juan thinks he's a nice person. Loli wonders where Juan's father is, but she notes that he passed away when she was just 3 years old, which is why she's jealous of Loli. After that, they go to have drinks, but Loli is annoyed that Juan only bought her a cola, so Juan reminds her that she's still underaged. Juan notes that she can't hold her liquor, so Loli takes a picture of them before Juan loses control, but she's scared as she sees the man from the other day watching them. So Loli makes a drawing on the window using ketchup, and they both yell at him to get lost, which makes him decide to leave. Loli takes Juan to the lab, but she's completely drunk, so Loli tells her to control herself, or they might get thrown out. She takes Juan to the warehouse, where she tells Loli she needs to become a hero, so that she can declare war on anyone who has a negative impression of them. Meanwhile, the masked hero Shindig arrives at the lab, and the guards try to stop him, but they suddenly start to laugh, and an explosion goes off. We see the mysterious man calling Juan, and hearing her voice makes him breathe heavily, so she calls him a creep and hangs up the phone. In the lab, as one of the staff tries to find out why the explosion happened, he comes across Shindig, but instead of stopping him, he just starts laughing. He runs into a few other staff members, who wonder what's wrong with him, but Shindig tells them they're the ones who are ruining the vibe. Meanwhile, a man calls Rock in the middle of the night for a meeting, which confuses him, and he's told that Son and the CEO of FOMO named Zach are also there. Rock runs into Zach, who teases him, wondering if he's okay being woken up at such a late time since he's so old. He asks Rock if he achieved his ideals after leaving FOMO, but he tells Zach to worry about himself because he saw the news that Shindig terminated his relationship with Zach's company. Zach notes that Shindig was the first hero developed on FOMO, and his music helped him gain a large amount of followers, who helped him become the fastest hero to ever reach the title of X. Rock mentions how he warned Zach that he shouldn't let the heroes run wild, and he needs a way to control them, but Zach thinks it isn't fair since everyone deserves a chance. They reach the meeting room, where everyone is told that the reason they have been gathered is because there has been a major breakthrough in the research of Project Zero, which has been carried out in secret for quite a while. Tan explains that they managed to extract a substance called fear from the incident at the orphanage in District 70, and they've been researching it for the past year. At the lab, Shindig continues putting people under his control, and he makes them destroy everything around them. He raises the temperature of the equipment, which causes more explosions, and he manages to reach the research team. In the warehouse, Won traps slowly because she thinks the creep who's following her is causing all the problems, so she plans to face him just like Loli taught her. She tells Won to stop because she's drunk, but she mentions that she's calmer than ever, and she can't just stand back while the people close to her are being threatened. Meanwhile, as Shindig gets close to his target, a researcher tries to stop him, warning him that if the contents of their research spill out, everyone there would be done for. But Shindig grabs his throat, telling him to open it up, and even though he tries to resist Shindig, he ends up falling under his control. Won arrives and tells Shindig to come after him if he needs anything, which makes him think she's his fan, and he asks her if she's nervous seeing him in person. She grabs his helmet and tries to take it off, which startles him, and he makes one of the men grab her. She yells at him for thinking all pretty girls like her are fragile, and she notes that even though he's using a helmet to hide his face, she can still see his creepy eyes. He's surprised that she's already gone crazy before he even used his powers on her, but she mentions that she's completely fine, and tells him that even if she has gone insane, it's only because he keeps following her. He becomes angry and tries to hit her, but Loli arrives with her suit and punches him away. Won is surprised that she's using the suit because it isn't ready yet, but Loli thinks it's the perfect time to test it. At the meeting, everyone is told that the Glimmer Lab is being attacked, so they all call their heroes to go there. Zack wonders if he should post it on FOMO, but Rock stops him because the situation is already too chaotic. He calls one of his heroes named Ghostblade, but he doesn't pick up, so Zack mentions that Rock's management style doesn't seem as perfect as he makes it out to be. In the lab, all of Shindig's puppets attack Loli, but they can't land a hit because she's too fast for them. She hits them lightly, but seeing that they aren't staying down, she uses the jets on her suit to land a powerful attack. Shindig takes off his helmet, and he mentions how the suit she's wearing is being wasted on her, so he tells her to give it to him because he thinks he can use it to get back the title of X. He knows she won't give in to his demands, so he tries using his powers to make her crazy for him, but he's shocked that it isn't working on her. She starts to slap his face, and she's angry because she can't believe someone like him was the top hero in the past. He begs her to stop, and she tells him to apologize to Won for stalking her, but his body starts to glow, and he throws Loli into a wall. He tries to punch her, but she blocks it, and uses her jetpack to get away, before attacking him from behind. But he counters and starts beating her up, and even though she manages to punch his face, he's still completely fine. He sends her crashing into a wall, and he keeps attacking her, so she doesn't have any time to breathe. Won sees that Loli is having a hard time, so she sends a weapon to her, and Loli uses it to smash Shindig's stomach, sending him flying into the glass. But they see that the fear energy has started to leak, so everyone evacuates the lab, while the energy grabs onto Shindig. Tan arrives, and is told about this situation, so he mentions that Ghostblade will take care of everything. He's surprised to see that Loli is in the suit, and he realizes that it's what she was working on in her home lab. He's angry because he didn't bring her there to keep working on such dangerous stuff, and he wishes for her to stop dreaming about being a hero. But Won notes that she is a hero, because everyone would still be in danger if she didn't save them. He mentions that he's just worried, but she shows him the fear energy in her hand, telling him she knows he's only worried about it, and he can't believe she's able to hold it in her hand. After that, Tan reports the incident to the higher-ups, and he reveals that the material he found in the wreckage of an alien spaceship crash has the ability to suppress fear. He notes that the alien material ignores the laws and energy of their world, and he believes they can use it to isolate the features of trust and fear. So it might give them more opportunities to refine the features into medicine, and he gets their permission to survey the spaceship wreckage. Meanwhile, Shindig returns to the Spotlight organization, and he asks for help, as he notes that he did everything he was told, but a masked man just gives him a new mission. We see a boy in a forest, who's trying to get away from Ghostblade, but he catches up to him, and ends his life by stabbing him in the stomach. He thinks about how he enjoys the silence after someone passes away, because he lived with a large family, so he never had moments of peace. We see that he belongs to a family of butchers, but he always thought they could achieve more, and he believed a butcher should be silent, so he decided to become the coolest assassin. He knows that mammals have sensory nerve endings in their hair and skin, so when people touch them, it releases endorphins that help reduce stress and calm them down. He always pets the animals before butchering them, and he wasn't doing it to lower their pain, but to make sure they don't make too much noise. After FOMO was formed, he believed it was a dumb idea, because he didn't think people could get the trust of strangers. But he eventually gained a following on FOMO, because he was a silent and handsome butcher, which increased his trust value, and he realized how easy it was to deceive others. He was eventually approached by a man to join Might Glory and become a hero, so he accepted the offer and left his family behind. He ended up becoming an assassin, but he never bothered to gather information on his targets, and he just killed them like he butchered the pigs. We return to the present, as he wishes that he won't be cursed by the boy he killed, because he isn't the one who wanted him dead. As he prepares to leave, he suddenly feels a gust of wind, so he turns around and sees that a huge monster has appeared. In the year 23, we see Ghostblade sitting with a girl named Lean, who was a hostage he saved after he became a hero, and she eventually became his wife. The first time he saw her was when he was chasing a target, who pulled a knife on her to make him stay away. But Ghostblade was shocked by how calm she was under such a dangerous situation, and he stabbed the man's head. After that, they started dating, and even though they rarely talked to each other, they understood each other's feelings. Even on their wedding day, Lean was on her phone, and instead of accepting him as her husband by saying the words, she just texted them to him. The first time she put down her phone was when she was told she was pregnant, and after that, she decided to change herself, and tells Ghostblade that she wishes to have a complete family. She notes that if he leaves his obsession, the things he was forcibly given will disappear, so she wants him to stop being a hero. She mentions that both their parents are getting older, so she wants to live with them, but he becomes scared, because he remembers the time he spent with his family. She tells him to say something or even give her a nod, but seeing that he isn't responding, she decides to leave him, and takes their daughter with her. He thinks about how his family was right about him, because he doesn't know how to express his feelings, and he doesn't even know what emotions are. After that, he keeps an eye on his daughter from afar, but he never shows himself to her, and he realizes why his father only observed him when he was teaching him how to butcher pigs. We learn that his daughter is Juan, and the creep she thought was stalking him turns out to be Ghostblade. As he's following her one day, he sees her running from him, but he thinks someone is threatening her. She comes across slowly in her suit, and he thinks she's the one who's harassing Juan, so he decides to confront her. They start to fight, and he kicks the helmet off her head, but he's confused to see that she's a girl. He realizes that he misunderstood the situation, so he bows in front of her and runs away. As he goes home, he remembers the time he got a teddy bear for Juan, but Lean told him that she's already 18, so she won't like such a gift. Lean mentions that he doesn't know anything about Juan, and she wonders if he even cares about her, but she tells him it doesn't matter because he's already dead to her. He thinks about how Lean was right about him, since he doesn't know anything about his daughter, so he decides to make a detailed plan to make sure he finds out about her lifestyle. He starts to copy her routines, and after seeing her activities, he notices that she's being influenced by Loli. He knows that sometimes a person isn't influenced by their parents, but by their close friends, and he thinks about how Juan never went out to drink or stay up late at night, but she's changing because of Loli, and he doesn't want to interfere with her growth, but he thinks Loli is a bad influence, so he decides to do something. He goes home and calls Juan, but he still can't get himself to say anything, so she calls him a creep and hangs up. After that, the lab is attacked, so Rock calls Ghostblade and tells him to solve the situation. He goes to the lab, where he walks past Juan, who notices something familiar about him, but she has no idea who he is. After everything is cleaned up, Tan tells Rock and Ghostblade that the commission has accepted his proposal, so he'll be going to the shipwreck immediately. Rock thinks he should take time to prepare, but Tan mentions that the commission needs everything to be over quickly to make sure there are no leaks. So the only people coming with him are the ones who experienced the attack last night, but Rock tells him it's too dangerous, so Ghostblade offers to go as well. Tan agrees to take him, because he can keep a secret, and they won't have to worry about anything if he's with them. They're interrupted by Zack, who mentions that the commission just notified him, so he's glad he made it there before anyone left. Rock wonders what the commission needs from him, so he notes that he was tasked to assign a hero to them, and he gives the job to Johnny. On their way to the shipwreck, Loli hacks the analog signal of the call they got last night so she can find the creep's location. Won wonders what she plans to do after finding him, so she mentions that she'll expose him to the whole world so that he can learn his lesson. Zong asks them what they're talking about, so Loli tells him that a man has been following Won, but she doesn't want Zong to know because he'll tell everyone in the lab. Loli manages to find the creep's location, but they're confused because it shows that he's right behind them. We see Ghostblade and Johnny following them in a car, and he thinks about how Johnny is the kind of person he hates because he's overly familiar. He introduces Ghostblade to his cat and notes that it isn't his biological son, but Ghostblade thinks that was obvious. Johnny asks him for parenting advice, and he mentions that if Ghostblade has trouble talking, they can add each other on FOMO. He notes that he used to sit with his dad in a car just like what they're doing now, and he mentions that he doesn't know why, but he remembers his past whenever he sees Ghostblade. He opens the window, wishing that the wind would carry away Johnny's ramblings, but Johnny thinks he opened the window to tell him that he should let the past go with the wind. Johnny starts to cry, so Ghostblade turns up the music to drown out the noise, but Johnny is surprised that he likes Cyan's music. He mentions that most of the people who like her singing have an emotional backstory, so he asks Ghostblade to tell him about it. But he remembers that Ghostblade can't speak, so Johnny notes that he'll guess things about him, and if any of them are correct, he can just nod his head. He turns the music up even more, but Johnny just starts to dance, and offers to introduce him to Cyan. Ghostblade grabs the steering wheel to control his anger, and he can't believe that the one time he's wishing he could speak in years is just so that he can curse Johnny. Loli suddenly jumps onto their car, which makes it go out of control, but Ghostblade manages to stop it before it falls off a cliff, and she tells him to get out of the car. After that, they all sit with Tan, who scolds Loli for acting irrationally, but she mentions that she was trying to bring Ghostblade to justice. She reveals that Ghostblade has been harassing Won, and she calls him a pervert. Won notes that she's telling the truth, so Tan asks him if everything they're saying is true, and he just nods his head. Won wonders why he would do such a thing, and Johnny realizes that it's why he had a deep look in his eyes when they were talking about emotions. Ghostblade is embarrassed, because they never discussed anything, and the look in his eyes was one of anger. Johnny mentions that Ghostblade was listening to a Cyan song, which is Won's favorite, so they wonder if he's been noting her hobbies. Loli asks Johnny if he noticed anything else, and he reveals that there were whisper flowers in the car, which are Won's favorite. Tan pulls Ghostblade to the side, and notes that there's no age limit for love, which shocks him, and he tries to tell Tan it isn't what's happening. But since he can't speak, Tan doesn't understand the situation. He confirms from Ghostblade that he's single, and Tan asks him if he really loves Won, which makes him think about how much he loves her, since she's his daughter. Tan notes that Won is single as well, so he should stop beating around the bush and confess his feelings to her. He offers to create opportunities for Ghostblade, but mentions that if she rejects him, he should stop trying to force his feelings onto her. At night, as they're about to have dinner, Tan welcomes Ghostblade and Johnny, and he praises Ghostblade to make him seem cool in front of Won. He tells Ghostblade to serve them food, but he eats it himself, so Tan notes that he was telling him to serve Won. But Loli tells her father to stop putting his nose in other people's business, telling him he doesn't even know his own daughter's favorite food. Johnny mentions that children need attention from a young age, so just parenting them once in a while doesn't work. Loli tells Tan that even Johnny has more parenting experience than him, but Won thinks Loli is lucky since she at least has a father. She mentions how her father passed away when she was little, and even though her mother always tells her that he wasn't worth her time, she still keeps thinking about him. She starts to cry, so Ghostblade tries to give her a napkin, but Johnny grabs it instead. He tells Won that she's lucky, since she at least has a mother, because both his parents passed away when he was little. He wished that he had never spent time with them, because it would have been better than experiencing happiness, only for it to be taken away from him. Everyone starts to cry, and Tan tells Loli he wishes he had spent more time with her, but there are many people's futures that depend on his research. She mentions that she's jealous of Johnny, because he became a hero at a young age, but he tells her he had his own reason. Ghostblade puts his coat on Won, and he feels that something's wrong, because even he's starting to feel sad. So he looks around and finds Shindig, who has been completely taken over by fear. He realizes that Shindig is spreading fear to others, which is what's making them all sad, so he prepares to fight him. He takes out a knife, and stabs Shindig's hand, causing his arm to explode. but it instantly regenerates. Ghostblade cuts off both of his arms, but he keeps growing them back, so Ghostblade hits him with a flurry of attacks, which makes him scared, and he tries to run away. But Ghostblade keeps slashing him, and as he's on his last legs, he apologizes for his actions, explaining that he was forced to do everything. As Ghostblade gets close to him, he tries to attack once again, but Ghostblade cuts him up, causing his body to explode. After that, everyone returns to normal, but Juan finds a notebook in Ghostblade's coat, and as she reads it, she sees that he's written about how she likes whisper flowers. We learn that they were in the first bouquet he gave her mother, because their fragrance lasts the longest, so he thought the smell could be with her, even when he isn't by her side. He also started listening to Cyan's music because of Juan, even though he never liked it, since he couldn't sing along. But he has fallen in love with it, because it makes him feel closer to his daughter, which makes her realize he's her father. In the year 18 of the Hero Commission, a hero named Asan goes on a mission to investigate a crashed alien spaceship, but he suddenly finds an alien cat. We go back a few days earlier, where we learn that Johnny is Asan's son, and he sits next to his mother, who is suffering from cancer. She tells him that each star in the sky is a baby before it comes to its parent, and she mentions that he used to be one of them, so she's grateful that he chose her as his mother, but she suddenly starts coughing. Asan tells Johnny to let her rest, and he agrees to play with him, but he suddenly gets a call from Zahn, who tells him to investigate the crash site. Asan returns from his mission, but he learns that his wife's condition is deteriorating, so he uses his powers to heal her. She notices that he's worried for her, and tells him to be happy and leave that city, before she finally passes away. That evening, Johnny wakes up as he hears a sound, and he thinks his dad is awake, but it turns out to be the cat, so he freaks out and starts chasing it. Asan tells him to calm down, since it's just a baby he found from a crashed spaceship, and he was afraid that people might hurt him, so he brought him home. Johnny recalls how his mother told him that babies come from the sky to be by their parents' side, so he thinks it must be his baby, and he decides to name it JB. They prepare to move to their new home far from the city, but they meet another hero named Vortex, who tells Asan to reconsider his decision. He thinks it's a mistake to abandon his status as a hero, but Asan mentions that being a hero is useless if he couldn't even save his wife. So Vortex warns him that after the downfall, one can't get the same powers as before, but Asan tells him to stop worrying about him, since he values his hard-earned retirement. Asan and Johnny soon arrive at their new home, and Johnny teaches JB how to mop the floor, but he drinks the water, so Johnny tells him it's for cleaning, and he spits it on his face. Johnny starts chasing the cat, and throws the mop at him, but it lands on Asan's head, and they're afraid of him since he looks like a ghost. Their neighbors hear the noise, but they think the house is still vacant, so they think it must be haunted. A few years pass, and Johnny continues to bond with the cat, but he complains to his mother that JB is naughty. Asan tells him that he was worse than JB in his childhood, and he often made his mother angry, but she always smiled at him, believing that sorrow couldn't heal wounds. Asan thinks it's okay to cry sometimes, but they must never forget that the power of a smile is what makes hope go on, and JB starts eating the flowers they had planted for Johnny's mother. So he chases after it, and they start playing with a boomerang, but a group of children suddenly traps JB, thinking it's the evil creature that the adults were talking about. Johnny tells them JB is his son, but they all start laughing at him, and they think he's under the evil being's control. They knock him down, and as he falls to the ground, they try to drag JB away, but he suddenly starts glowing, so one of the boys runs away. Their leader tells him that it's just a regular animal, but as he sees it up close, he also becomes scared and runs away. Johnny hugs it to calm it down, and he thinks JB will become a hero just like his father, because he has amazing powers. In the next few days, Johnny continues to spend most of his time playing with JB, while the other kids spy on them from a distance. As he eats breakfast at home, Asan thinks Johnny isn't an ideal role model, because JB is following in his footsteps and gobbling up his food. Johnny tells him that it's his fault for making such delicious food, but they're suddenly interrupted by a knock on the door. Asan tells them to clear the table and go inside, while he meets Vortex at the door, and Asan wonders why he's there, so he notes that he just wanted to ask about his new life in the mountains. Asan is satisfied with his life, and he asks for the real reason why Vortex visited him, so he admits that he needs Asan's help, and hopes he'll come back as a hero. But he thinks Vortex is strong enough to defeat his opponent, since he already defeated him in last year's tournament. Esan also mentions that he left a long time ago, so he no longer has his old powers, and Vortex knows that he must be affected by his wife's death. He believes that as long as someone remembers Esan, he can still use his healing powers, but he reminds Vortex that if someone doesn't trust their own abilities, the number of followers they have is useless. Johnny overhears the conversation, as Vortex notes that Esan is wasting his talent because of his complacent attitude, and Esan wonders if he's really worried about him, or if he's only concerned about himself. Vortex crushes the cup in anger, and notes that even if Esan doesn't care for himself, he should think of his son. He reminds Vortex that he's in no position to threaten him, and offers to heal his wound, but he leaves and thanks Esan for the tea. Johnny goes outside, wondering how his father is connected to Vortex, but the kids from earlier stop him, and they know that his father is the famous hero Esan. Johnny tells them to show him the comic book, which they had bought from the city, and they all start reading it. He learns that Esan used to be an expert healer, so one of the boys wonders why he didn't use his powers to save Johnny's mother, but their leader hits him for being insensitive. Johnny recognizes Vortex as the man who came to his house, which makes them wonder why the current hero X personally visited their house. One of the boys wonders why his parents told him that the city heroes are evil and bring bad luck, but Johnny senses that something's wrong. So he runs back to his house, but on his way, he notices signs of a battle. He sees his father's body next to a tree, so he starts crying and promises to avenge him. He wonders if Vortex killed Esan, but seeing him cry makes JB angry, and he transforms into a giant monster. Johnny tries to calm him down, but JB goes out of control and starts destroying the nearby village, so the villagers think they were right about the city heroes. Vortex suddenly arrives, and he saves everyone from the falling debris, so they think everything will be okay. But Johnny notices him, and he charges at him to avenge Esan, while Ghostblade watches them from a distance. Vortex creates a giant tornado to fight JB, but he stays firm because of his massive size, and throws logs at Vortex to distract him. JB tries to grab him, but he evades the attack and jumps to the ground, where he launches rocks to fight back. He converts them into arrows, and manages to wound JB, but he uses a broken tree to smash Vortex, and sends him crashing to the ground. Vortex tries to trap him with rocks, but JB hears Johnny's voice, and he manages to break free. Vortex prepares to use his special move, but JB jumps into the air, and Vortex realizes that his skill isn't working. JB slams him to the ground, leaving him in disbelief, but JB continues to punch him while he's down. Everyone is shocked that the number 1 hero was defeated, and they try to escape, but JB notices them and starts walking towards them. But Johnny stops him, telling him not to hurt other people, and Johnny mentions that he did great since he defeated Vortex, but he can't let him continue like that since they're family. Johnny remembers what his father told him, and explains that sorrow can't heal wounds or bring back the dead, so they need to cry when they're sad. But once they're done crying, they should remember that what makes hope go on is the power of a smile. JB returns to normal, while Ghostblade receives a message from an unknown number, ordering him not to do anything unnecessary, so he leaves the scene. Everyone learns about Vortex's defeat, but they also learn that Johnny was able to control the monster, so his trust rating increases. The media heads to his house, and they start asking him questions, but Johnny leaves to look for Vortex, since he wants to get answers. At the Hero Tower, an injured Vortex sees the news, and he's angry that Esan refused to help him, but Johnny enters his room and asks him if he had anything to do with his father's death. Johnny reveals that he heard their conversation, but Vortex just laughs at him and notes that he doesn't need to dirty his hands to kill a loser. But Johnny reminds him how he needed his father's help to defeat the number 2 hero, which enrages him, but he starts coughing from his injuries. Johnny thanks him since he received the invitation to join FOMO after defeating him, and he notes that he'll get his answers in the ranking tournament, which Vortex finds funny. After 17 years, we see Johnny playing video games, and his manager isn't happy since he's always slacking off. He thinks that with such an attitude, he might lose his commission ranking, but he doesn't seem to care, so his manager reminds him how much Zack has done for him. But Johnny notes that he already fulfilled the platform's requirements, and thinks all he's suited for is smiling in public, since he hasn't had a real fight in a long time. He's sad that he spends most of his time smiling before the camera, since he never thought he would be bringing people hope with his smile instead of his actions. The manager wonders when he lost his passion, since he was motivated when he accepted Zack's offer. So Johnny explains that he lost his reason to be a hero when Vortex died in a plane crash, since he could no longer find answers about his father's death. The manager doesn't understand him, but tells him his wish is about to be fulfilled, since he'll be joining Mike Glory's Ghostblade on a secret escort mission. We see Tan after the incident with Shindig, where he tells the commission that some of the fear they were studying got out, but they were able to contain it. He adds that they've made another discovery from the incident, and tells them about the material he found in the crashed alien ship from years ago, revealing that it can suppress fear. He explains that at that time, the main goal of their research was to investigate the wreckage itself, but they neglected that the alien material defies all laws of energy in their world, including fear and trust. They think it might make the powers they gain from trust useless, so he mentions that he wants to conduct a secret survey on the wreckage site, and they accept his proposal. Johnny meets Ghostblade, but JB doesn't like him, and he suddenly runs away, while Rock notes that they have a carefree environment at FOMO. Mickey calls the Hero Commission, and he mentions that he's aware of the situation, telling them how a few years ago, Esan went to investigate the crash site. But he never disclosed his findings, so only Johnny knows about it, and Lou thinks that Rock might become suspicious because of it. But Mickey tells him that Johnny belongs to FOMO, so if Rock has a problem, he should take it up with Zack. Lou realizes that he wants to intensify their conflict and reap the benefits, which explains why he's so relaxed, but Mickey reminds him that they've also invited a special guest to make an appearance. He notes that all the progress they've made in the first phase of experiments is increasing fear value, and he believes that it's all thanks to Lou's contribution. But he thinks the lab workers deserve the credit, and notes that they've proven the necessity of the existence of a fear value, which might be more stable than trust. Mickey mentions that according to his sources, they aren't the only ones working on fear, but Lou doesn't understand him. So he explains that heroes who leave a mark on history often come from eras of chaos, and having more players in the scene isn't a bad thing. Lou thinks Mickey had already anticipated everything, and he admits that it's true, explaining that he couldn't waste such an opportunity as a businessman. Queen joins them in the room, and asks Mickey if he still needs her for something, but he wonders if she has already recovered, so she explains that she's already preparing for the next tournament. She wonders what her father is doing there, so he tells her that he needed to discuss something with Mickey, who mentions that they were discussing that she should take a vacation in the countryside. So she wonders where she'll be staying, and he tells her it's near the crashed spaceship, but it's up to Lou if he agrees to it. Meanwhile, we see Son in a laboratory looking at a pod, where the status shows that a fusion is in progress. We jump back to after Ghostblade defeated Shindig, and we see that Johnny had a nightmare about his father's death from the fear. Johnny wakes up the next morning, and Tan tells him that everyone hallucinated after they were attacked by Shindig, so they all became depressed. Johnny wonders if Shindig had anything to do with his father's death, so Tan tells him that they don't know much about his past, but he might be connected to the Spotlight organization. He reveals that the Commission's research focuses on the control and suppression of fear, while the Spotlight organization does the opposite, since they want to use fear as a weapon. He notes that it's because of their research that they had to keep their survey mission a secret, but Johnny thinks it must have been leaked somehow. Tan thinks they're lucky to have Ghostblade, since he's immune to Shindig's powers, so he was able to defeat him, thinking he must be a cold and emotionless person. Ghostblade pretends to be bad at cutting vegetables, so one teaches him how to do it, and Johnny thinks he might be wrong about Ghostblade's involvement in his father's death. After they leave, Ghostblade quickly chops the vegetables, and he receives a call from Rock, who reminds him to be careful since everyone's eyes are on their mission. He suddenly walks away, so one thinks he must have left a mess, but she's shocked to see what he did. They continue their journey, and they soon reach the crash site, where Tan learns that the ship's internal structure isn't stable, and it might collapse if the extraction produces large vibrations. He also thinks that because of the EMF interference, they will lose signal the deeper they go, so he divides the roles before they enter the spaceship. After that, Tan notices Loli working on her suit, so he encourages her to keep upgrading it, telling her she would one day surpass him in the field of scientific research. He tells her he needs her help to maintain smooth communication, since there might be signal interference during the extraction process, and she immediately accepts the task. But she realizes that he's only doing it to keep her outside, since anyone can do that job. He explains that their mission has already been exposed, and they might get attacked again, but she thinks she can take on anyone who comes after them. So he notes that they only survived last night because of Ghostblade, and he thinks the enemies have already grasped more means of using fear. but she's confident that she can defeat any threat with her armor, and Won overhears their argument. So after Tan leaves, she tries to comfort Loli, explaining that her father fears for her safety since she's still just a child in his eyes. Won notes that she faced the same problem, since no matter how hard she tried, no one acknowledged her for anything she did. She wanted to work even harder, but the people who cared for her were so far away, and she mentions how everything changed after she met Loli, since they had a lot in common. So she thinks she's lucky to have her as a friend, and Loli gives her a custom tracker that she made, explaining that it will help them track her location in real time. Tan and the others start their research inside the spaceship, and he asks Won to accompany him since he wants to look for any leftover alien DNA inside the ship. JB suddenly smells something, and he runs forward, so Johnny tries to stop him, but the floor suddenly crumbles and they fall right through. The other members of the team can't find them, and Tan tells Ghostblade to help them, so he jumps down the hole to save them. Tan tells Won that people often can't stand challenges, and even with the Commission's management, tragedies like Zero will keep happening. He thinks they can only control these powers by relying on science, but Loli's tracker suddenly makes a sound, and Tan realizes that she's trying to alert them about something. So he looks around, and he's shocked as he sees someone behind them. Meanwhile, Johnny wonders why JB appears to be disturbed, and he tries to contact the team, but he realizes that there's no signal. JB suddenly starts digging, and as Ghostblade approaches them, he remembers when Rock told him to kill Hassan, because he ignored ethics and used his powers to breed man-made life. Rock mentions that Hassan taught his son how to tame a monster, and he even became a hero in the hearts of people, so Ghostblade needs to also take him out. Ghostblade prepares to kill Johnny, but JB presses a button, which opens a secret passage, so he quickly steps back. They all go inside, and they see hibernation pods, so Johnny wonders what happened to the aliens on the ship when it crashed. Ghostblade suddenly charges at him, which scares him, but he's just blocking an attack from Isol. He tries to kill Johnny, but Ghostblade saves him once again, and Isol tries to stay on his target instead of wasting time with Ghostblade. But JB saves him, so Isol creates an electric net to trap him, and Ghostblade charges at Isol, who has the speed advantage, so he easily dodges Ghostblade's attacks and sends him flying. But he immediately recovers and throws one of his blades at Isol, who easily deflects it, and Ghostblade continues to fight him, while Johnny goes to save JB. We go back to when Ghostblade volunteered for the mission, but Rock can tell that something's wrong, since he never volunteers for a mission. Rock thinks he might already know that JB was brought out of the spaceship by Hassan, so he tells Isol to finish him if he doesn't complete his mission. Isol happily agrees to do it, since he'll have one less opponent to face in the ranking tournament if he defeats Ghostblade. Back in the present, Ghostblade struggles against Isol, who electrocutes him and breaks his knife, so Johnny gives him an axe, which he uses to smash Isol's chest. Isol removes the axe and throws it back at Ghostblade, who manages to catch it, and Isol rushes to attack Johnny, but Ghostblade gets in the way. Their weapons clash, and the impact throws Johnny to the ground, while Ghostblade tries to attack Isol once again, but he grabs onto his knife and smashes it into his body. Meanwhile, Tan finds Nice, and Won wonders if the Commission sent him to support them, but Tan isn't aware of such an arrangement. Nice asks them about their companions, and notes that they'll soon be in danger, since he'll kill everyone once he's done with them. He suddenly charges at them, but Loli arrives in her suit and blocks his attack, telling him he's so weak that he doesn't deserve to be a hero. We go back to when Nice met with San, who tells him that Jay will start handling his affairs, which upsets him, since he was under the personal guidance of San right from the start. He mentions that Nice failed to impress him, and he doesn't like wasting his time on things that no longer have value. So Nice assures him that his popularity is still growing, and he has a chance to reach the top 10 by the next year. But San reminds him how his perfect persona was created using fear, and the Commission has a new lead on fear suppression, so fear and trust values will soon be useless. Nice realizes that he must stop Tan's research at all costs, and San gives him a smile of approval as he leaves. We return to the present, as Loli fights Nice since her system detected his strong hostility, while Tan and Won try to escape. Nice notices that they're running away, so he tries to stop them, but Loli shoots him down and flies away with them. Won tells her that Nice is right above them, so Loli shoots rockets at him, but he easily dodges them and charges at her. Loli launches her arm to avoid getting hit, but as it attaches to her body, Nice suddenly attacks her from above again, so she's forced to let Tan and Juan go. He manages to land a kick, but she uses a slime-filled rocket to stick him to the wall, and she knows that it won't hold him for long, so she tells the others to leave. But Tan is worried about her, so she assures him that she'll be fine, and Nice rushes at them, but she fights him head-on. She gets thrown into the concrete, and her father tells her to stop acting tough, but she mentions that her suit will gradually reduce his powers. Tan notes that no matter how weak he becomes, he's still a ranked hero, but Juan wonders why a hero is attacking them. So Tan remembers how the commission told him that they hoped the lab could develop a way to suppress fear and trust values so that they can maintain a balance. Tan and Juan rush outside, but they see that their entire team has been killed, and a masked man finishes off a survivor right in front of them. We see that it was Mickey who told San about the Glimmer Lab survey mission, telling him about how they're actually looking for a key material in suppressing fear, and if they manage to find it, it will make things difficult for San. But he isn't interested in talking about it, so Mickey tells him how it's an opportunity for them to bring down Mike Glory. He explains how Ghostblade is in charge of the escort mission, so Mike Glory's reputation will be ruined if it fails, and the research will stop if the team doesn't find what they're looking for. Back in the spaceship, Nice continues to attack Loli, and her suit malfunctions, so she tries to contact Johnny for help, but he tells her that he's also in trouble. Ghostblade lies on the ground, and Isol is about to finish him off, but Johnny throws his boomerang to stop him. Ghostblade gets back up, and he continues to fight Isol, who still has the advantage, so Johnny throws smoke bombs to blind him. Ghostblade tries to land a sneak attack, and he stabs Isol's hand, but he suddenly releases a powerful electric shock, which instantly knocks him out. We see that earlier, San didn't think Ghostblade's failure alone would be enough to convince everyone that it was Mike Glory's responsibility. So Mickey tells him how Rock's father was responsible for creating the world's first hero named Zero, who was known as the strongest human, but he accidentally killed another hero, which led to the creation of fear in everyone's eyes, and he became the god of death. He mentions that even though the heroes joined hands to defeat Zero, his fear still lives in their hearts, and it only needs a single spark to return. San realizes that Rock wants to follow his father's footsteps, and we see Rock praying to Zero since he wishes to resurrect him. Back in the spaceship, Isol is about to kill Johnny, but JB steps in front of him to shield him, and Loli launches a rocket at Nice, but he dodges it and mentions that her tricks won't work on him. But he realizes that she didn't plan to hit him, since her real goal was to crush him under the rubble. Isol attacks Johnny with his lightning, so JB becomes angry, and he transforms into his monster form, while Loli sees San's men killing her father, so she goes crazy and crushes them all to death. She charges at Nice, but he punches her in the stomach and throws her to the ground. She grabs him from behind, and he tries to break free, so she abandons her suit and allows it to self-destruct, while she uses her helmet to land a solid hit. But they're suddenly interrupted by Isol, who crashes to the ground as JB appears, and they're about to continue the fight. But Queen suddenly stops everyone with her powers, and tells Cyan to help Johnny, so she uses her yo-yo to find him. Queen uses her powers to push away the debris, and when they reach Johnny, Cyan creates a barrier around him, while Queen lets the rubble fall on Nice and Isol. Cyan asks Johnny if he's okay, so he notes that he only has a few broken ribs because of the good luck charm she gave him, which doesn't conduct electricity. He's worried for Ghostblade, and notes that he only survived thanks to him, so she mentions that he'll be fine, and Johnny promises to train harder after they get back. Loli puts flowers on her father's grave, and we learn that she joined FOMO, where she's now the number 6 hero. Ghostblade resigns from Mike Glory, and he visits Juan, who's now in a coma at the hospital. Queen and Cyan deliver a speech that gains public attention, and as Lou watches the broadcast, he appears to be pleased with her message. Johnny and JB meet with Mickey and Zach, but they seem to have realized that Mickey was behind what happened, and we see Hero X buying a magazine about Nice. San gives the story of the alien ruin incident to Jay, so she twists it to create a positive image of Nice, and the commission cancels the Heroes tournament. So X will retain the title for another 2 years, making him the first hero to hold the title for 3 consecutive terms. We see a kid named Dragon Boy swimming in ice water, and the other kids wonder if he's crazy or doing it for the views. They start recording him and make fun of him, but he comes out of the water and throws away their camera, so they become angry and start hitting him. He calls them trash that should be cleaned out, but he doesn't fight back and takes the beating, so they realize that he isn't a normal person. He provokes them to attack again, and they continue to beat him up, but he kills all of them as he fights back. He lies down to rest, but Rock approaches him and tells him he's looking for someone who can be turned into a god. He asks Dragon Boy if he wants to join him, and he agrees on the condition that once he becomes god, he'll remove all the human trash like the ones he just killed. In the present, Dragon Boy tells Rock that he's ready, and notes that he should have been the one to replace Ghostblade, whose popularity has only risen after he left Might Glory. Loli and Johnny have also entered the top 10 after the Ruins incident, and Dragon Boy wonders which one he should attack, but Rock notes that he can't attack them since everyone's watching them. Rock thinks they should deal with them in the Heroes Tournament, but notes that the current rank 10 hero firm man is just a commission figurehead, so they can't make a move against him since it will alert the commission. Rock notes that their target will be a top 10 hero, who is just outside the public's attention, and Dragon Boy realizes that he's talking about Smile, since he's been sitting in the top 10 for decades. Rock notes that his position can no longer be threatened by public opinion and criticism, but he gives Dragon Boy a weapon he can use against him, and tells him it's his only chance to get into the top 10. We see Nice doing a photo shoot, but the photographer Wong thinks his smile looks awkward since he isn't showing any real emotions. Jay doesn't understand his demand, and thinks he's being too vague, but her assistant tells her it isn't easy to book Wong, since he's a renowned photographer. They're suddenly interrupted by Smile, who mentions that a smile is something that comes from within, like a power that moves through the face muscles. He explains that it can affect others, so it's hard to fake, and he advises Nice to think about what brings joy to his life, so that he can express his real emotions. He remembers how he used to be a fan of Smile during his childhood, and he finally manages to smile better, so they continue with the photo shoot. But San suddenly arrives, and tells them he needs to speak with Nice, which makes Wong angry. San asks Nice why he's there, since he told him to stay low, and he reminds him of the mess he made during his failed mission. He notes that Nice might be able to prove himself, and tells him he needs to get revenge instead of faking his smile, as he remembers his son's death. San mentions that he didn't work hard just to make Nice a hero, so he must enter the top 10 and bring down Isol and Rock. San tells him to look at Smile, and notes that he needs to replace him at all costs, so that he can enter the top 10. San explains that the commission thinks X might become a god like Zero, which they think is dangerous, so they have issued an order to execute him. Smile disguises himself as a delivery boy to meet X, and he removes his helmet, so X wonders why he keeps changing his outfits. Smile tells him that he's just trying to protect his identity, and they both sit down to enjoy the food, as Smile notes that a lonely man can only enjoy the company of another that is lonely. X mentions that he likes to stay alone, so Smile jokes that he's too realistic, and suggests snapping his fingers so that he can talk to his other self. X rejects it since he doesn't like to work overtime, and he wonders why Smile came to visit him, so he mentions that the commission wants to remove him from the tournament. X notes that he already wanted to quit last year, but he didn't know that the Ruins incident would cancel the tournament, and he mentions that he misses his old life. He admires Smile for being a hero for decades, since he knows how tiring it is, and Smile mentions that he's already used to his routine, revealing that he's happy with his job. But after they finish their drinks, Smile mentions that he's sad on the inside, since he thinks everyone has a family while he's stuck forcing a smile. He notes that even his tears can't flow because of his stiff face, but X doesn't believe him, and Smile starts taking off his shirt. But he stops as he realizes that there was no point in doing that, and X notices his necklace, so he reveals that his wife bought him 2 necklaces, one for him and one for his daughter. He reveals that he never had time to look at her, so she put their picture in the locket, and his daughter didn't have any photo with a smile, so she looks sad in the necklace. He reveals that she has grown up and they're no longer in contact, and he asks X if he finds his story sad, but realizes that he's already asleep, so Smile takes him to his bed and closes the door. He throws away the trash, and thinks no one will notice him there, so he takes off the helmet, but Dragon Boy suddenly calls him from behind. He mentions that he came to make a deal with him for the ranking match, and offers him his daughter's necklace in return, which shocks him. He tries to remain calm, and notes that he won't give up his ranking just for a necklace, but Dragon Boy opens it to show Smile's picture with his daughter. So he becomes angry and punches Dragon Boy away, asking him where she is, but Dragon Boy laughs at him since he can't talk without smiling. Dragon Boy lies that he doesn't know about her location, and he just found the necklace in the street, but Smile threatens to tear him apart if anything happens to her. He puts the necklace around Smile's neck, so Smile beats him up and smashes him to the ground, but he still thinks it isn't enough. He provokes Smile to hit even harder, so he loses his temper and slams him to the ground, before hitting him with a barrage of punches, but people notice them and start filming them. Dragon Boy gets back up, and he activates his powers, as he notes that it's his turn to play. He mentions that Smile is trash in his eyes, telling him he's no longer smiling, and he knocks him down with a devastating blow, which creates a huge crater in the ground. He thinks it's time for him to take his ranking, and prepares to finish him off, but Smile suddenly grabs his hand, and tells him he knows about his powers. He tries to hit Dragon Boy, who manages to block his punch, and tells him he's powerful even though he's old. He thanks Dragon Boy for reminding him that his powers only activate when he's smiling, and he's about to crush Dragon Boy's arm. But he asks Nice how long he plans to stay in hiding, and he admires him for being clever, knowing he's just waiting for the right moment to strike. We go back to when Rock took Dragon Boy to his lab, and tells him how the founding of the Hero Commission marked the beginning of a new era. Rock reveals that it was founded because of a downfall, which Dragon Boy recognizes as the battle that took all the heroes to defeat a monster. But Rock explains that Zero wasn't a monster, and he just took all the responsibility he shouldn't have taken. Rock notes that the people needed a savior, so Zero took on the role and gave them hope, but people's hearts have hidden corners, and the praises they gave Zero were wrapped with negative emotions. He couldn't bear the pain they brought, and we learned that he wasn't perfect despite being a god, so he ended up falling from grace. Rock notes that for those who wish to ascend to godhood, they must be prepared to face pain as a trial, so he chose Dragon Boy to be Zero's successor. X wakes up, but he can't remember what happened, and he has a hangover from drinking with Smile, so he rushes to the restroom. Meanwhile, Nice approaches Smile, who thinks Nice will help him, but Dragon Boy notes that he also came to steal Smile's ranking. We learn that Son knew Rock would use Dragon Boy to target Smile, so he tells Nice to wait for the right moment and inject whoever wins with fear before destroying them. But Nice doesn't know what to do, and Dragon Boy tells him that if he kills Smile, he'll give him a chance to enter the top 10, but Smile reminds him that the most important thing for a hero is belief. He wants to be like Smile, but he remembers how Son is controlling him, so he just stands there, and Smile wonders why he's acting like he's possessed. Smile continues to fight Dragon Boy, and they appear to be evenly matched, but Nice suddenly charges in and injects fear into Dragon Boy's body. So he screams in pain, but suddenly starts laughing, and notes that his power is to return 2 times the damage he takes. He spits fear at Nice, but Smile blocks it with his body, and he wonders what the chemical is, thinking it can't hurt him, but the fear takes over his body, and he transforms into a monster. He attacks Nice, who barely manages to defend himself, but Smile suddenly teleports behind him and punches him away. Dragon Boy enjoys watching them fight, but Smile suddenly charges at him and starts beating him up. He takes him into the water and shoots fear at him, but Dragon Boy evades it and counters with a kick, but it has no effect. Smile launches him to the air and smashes him to the ground, where the people gather around them, wondering what kind of monster Dragon Boy is fighting. But they realize that Dragon Boy is getting beaten up, and as Nice regains his senses, he realizes that they're fighting, so everyone thinks he's going to help. But he just stands there, and he watches Smile as he chokes Dragon Boy, telling him to stop laughing. He runs out of breath, but he remembers how he was once stuck under ice, and the kids refused to save him since they thought he was trash. So he became enraged and gained his powers, which helped him break out of there. Dragon Boy transforms into a purple creature, and everyone starts cheering for him, which increases his powers. He returns the damage he took from Smile with a devastating punch, which obliterates his body, and Dragon Boy approaches Nice, who's angry at the death of his idol. But he's also afraid of Dragon Boy, and he lands the first blow, but even a direct punch to his face has no effect. Everyone wonders why he didn't help Dragon Boy earlier, and they start fighting, as Nice dodges Dragon Boy's attacks, but he finds an opening and kicks Nice away. The people start cheering, and most of them are rooting for Dragon Boy to win, since they think Nice is evil. Their punches collide, and Nice coughs up blood, but he still keeps pushing, and after dodging a few hits, he manages to punch Dragon Boy in the back, and lands another hit in his gut. He tries to finish him with his next hit, but Dragon Boy grabs his hand and slams him to the ground. Dragon Boy is about to finish him off, but X suddenly uses his powers to save him, and notes that Nice would have been blown into pieces if he hadn't arrived in time. He mentions that he hates working overtime, but he snaps his fingers to change reality and slides down a bridge. Dragon Boy thinks he's lucky, since he might get the #1 spot by defeating X, who confidently walks towards him and snaps his fingers. Dragon Boy turns into paper, and X throws him into the water, before snapping his finger again. Dragon Boy is returned to his original self, and everyone cheers for X, thinking he's amazing. He goes to the site where the fight took place, and he sees Smile's body return to normal, which makes Nice cry, while X picks up his necklace. Rock notices him taking it, so he realizes that there must be a connection between Smile and X, and he's happy that they finally have a lead on him. 41 years after the founding of the Hero Commission, we see a circus dog named Anu, who was trained by a man who got bitten in the leg by a tiger, so he raised Anu as a tiger to overcome his fear. The kids used to love him, but he didn't enjoy being around them, and one day, the kids took their jokes too far, so he bit one of them, and he was removed from the circus. Everyone's afraid of him, but a girl named Shinya adopts him and welcomes him to her family. She tells him how the residents in their society have been living together for years, and they meet her Granny Nai, who's removing a vending machine since she thinks it's tripping her house's circuit breaker. Shinya assures her that it isn't the reason, and she quickly reconnects the wires, but Nai is shocked to see Anu, wondering if he's dangerous. Shinya assures her that he can beat people up, and she hopes that he'll help them get rid of the people who want to steal their house. But Nai thinks they should stop resisting, so Shinya notes that they can't abandon their home, and she manages to fix the machine. She takes Anu on a walk, but he stops as he notices the Treeman Corporation's advertisement, so she tells him he's looking at the hero Nice. She mentions how the big heroes don't have time for them, since they're just commoners, so it's their responsibility to take care of their own problems. Shinya takes Anu to their house, and notes that it's their base of operations, but he doesn't see anything they can use as a weapon, so he wonders how they'll fight with that equipment. He realizes that her dad was a special representative of the commission when he was alive, and she promises to take Anu to meet everybody, and show them how amazing he really is. The next day, Shinya uses a loudspeaker to tell everyone that the Residents Support Association office has a new staff member who has extraordinary powers. Nai tells her to get down, since she doesn't think a dog can fight against the people trying to demolish their homes, and Shinya tells Anu to say something. So he just barks, but she translates it as his claim to be the mightiest creature of the land, and she thinks he can protect them. Shinya creates a lizard costume to stage a fight between Anu and herself, so that she can increase his popularity, but instead of fighting her, he just goes to sleep. She tells him to move a bit, and as he calls her an idiot, she uses special effects to show that he used his sonic powers to defeat her. She uploads the video, hoping for good results, but she only gets one comment, which mentions that even AI can create better videos than hers. She spreads his hero posters everywhere, and tries her best to convince people that he's a capable hero, but no one believes her. The goons from the Treeman Corporation threaten Shinya to leave, but she refuses to cooperate, so they slap her, and one of them mocks Anu, saying he's more suited to be a clown than a hero. But he becomes angry hearing this, and he attacks them, forcing them to leave. She's proud of him for scaring them off, and she tells everyone that he made the men leave after he gave them a beating, while Anu smiles seeing how happy she is. The next day, as Shinya returns home, her granny tells her that they were supposed to sign the final contracts next week. But because of what happened yesterday, all the residents have ended their contracts early. Shinya thinks they were threatened, but Nai tells her that the people from the Treeman Corporation came with a hero, who acted as a guarantor, so everyone decided to end their contract. Nai also considers doing it, but Shinya thinks it's a trick to scam the elderly, and she wants to get their contracts back. She calls the FOMO editorial office to share the story, and goes to the builder's office, where she finds a masked man guarding it. She sneaks in and hears a man talking on the phone about how they've gotten most of the deeds, and they'll get the rest to sign tonight. The man he's talking to appreciates their work, but Anu distracts the man, so he walks away while Shinya steals the contracts. She accidentally makes a sound, and the man finds her, so he quickly runs after her and grabs her leg, but Anu kicks his face to save her. They go outside where they encounter a lot of guards, but Anu charges at them, so Shinya manages to escape. They notice that more men are coming from below them, so they rush upstairs, but Anu is already exhausted. So she encourages him to go on, telling him the homes belong to their neighbors, and they can't allow the evil men to take them by force. She gives him the papers, and tells him to escape while she stays behind, so he starts running and goes into another house, but he looks through a window, and realizes that she's in danger. The men push her off a building, and Anu thinks about saving her, but he sees a man behind him, so he wonders how there can be so many of them. The man suddenly divides into three, so Anna realizes that they aren't ordinary humans, and they work together to beat him up. They recover the contracts and throw him outside, but he refuses to give up, and one of the men grabs a wooden plank to hit him. Anna thinks he can defeat them to protect Shinya, but he closes his eyes as he's about to get hit, and he suddenly hears a snap. As he opens his eyes, he sees the man turned into graffiti on the plank, and he recalls that he heard a finger snap, so he looks around. But another masked man comes out, so he runs away, and he notices X in his civilian outfit, so he tries to tell him to leave since it's dangerous. The masked men rush to attack Anu, but X snaps his finger once again, and they all disappear, but Anna notices that they're fighting X inside the wall. Anna thinks about how he grew up in a circus, so he was able to witness countless magic tricks, but he never believed in them, and it's only now that he understands that magic does exist. Anna goes back to Shinya, who notes that he shouldn't be there, but a masked man suddenly comes out of a fear chemical and starts attacking her. He's about to cut her in half, but Anna pushes her to safety, and he starts barking, asking the man from earlier to come and save them. But Nice suddenly arrives, and notes that he wants to help Anu, but he's looking for important documents, and Anna realizes that he's the man from the phone call. He mentions that he can't mess up his mission, and he moves away, allowing the masked man to finish them off. Anu tries to protect Shinya, but he gets kicked away, and he thinks he's useless since he's just a circus clown who started believing he was a hero. The masked man throws an axe at him, but Shinya pushes him away, and he remembers how she used to visit the circus with her father. He recalls that she always believed in him, realizing he had absolute faith in her words since the beginning, and her trust gives him the power to fight back. He grabs the axe and throws it back at the masked man, cutting off his head, and fear chemical falls on Nice, so he freaks out, since he doesn't want to turn into a monster. But he notices the drones from FOMO, so he quickly escapes, while Anna barks to draw attention toward an unconscious Shinya. Anu soon becomes a hero in everyone's eyes, since they think he defeated the Black Suits organization, and he takes credit for X's actions. Shinya wakes up, and she's shocked to learn that he can talk, so she asks him to tell her everything, and he returns everyone's contracts to her. Nice asks for Son's help, since he's infected by fear, but Son refuses to help him, since he failed to complete his mission. He asks for another chance, but Son thinks he's hopeless, telling him he's even worse than a dog who reached rank 8. So Nice completely loses it, and he finds himself on top of the building, where he took his own life. Son goes on a TV program, where he tells the host that they're investigating Moon's death, and that Lin signed with the Treeman Corporation. The Hero Commission also investigates to check Dragon Boy's eligibility, because even though he defeated Smile while he was consumed by fear, his violent and cruel methods are controversial. The commission passes Dragon Boy, and he conducts a press conference with Rock, telling everyone that he'll enter the tournament at rank 3. Everyone wonders who will be the next Hero X, or if X will be able to retain his title once again, but we see him working at his company, as he waits for the clock to strike 7 so that he can go home. After work, he buys his favorite food and drinks, before returning to his apartment, where he eats alone. We see Anu spying on him from another building's rooftop, and we go back to when Zack told Anu about the commission's decision to eliminate X, since they can't allow him to become a god. Anu thinks the commission should provide him with the right stage to perform, but Zack thinks he's too innocent, since everyone will play the dirtiest tricks to get to the top. Zack mentions that he doesn't expect much from Anu, but he notes that he'll stop X by assassinating him in advance. In the present, X notices Anu spying on him, and he snaps his fingers to teleport him to his room, but Anu gets stuck in the walls. X knows that he must have come for a reason, so they can have a conversation once he's ready to share that, and Anu claims that he was just out on a walk. But X knows that he has been following him since he got off from work, and Anu thinks he might be afraid of becoming a demon, but X doesn't understand him. He sets him free, so that they can have a conversation, and he asks X to forfeit the tournament, so that he won't become everyone's enemy. But X wonders what will happen if he doesn't do that, so Anu threatens to reveal his true identity to everyone. But he thinks Anu has already done that, since there are men outside the building who know about his location, and they break into his apartment. But X changes their reality, and he easily evades their attack, causing them to hit each other. He effortlessly defeats all of them by moving between dimensions, and as they head outside, Anu wonders why the commission's people are mixed in with the men. X thinks he should know it better, since they came with him, but Anu assures him that he hasn't told anyone about his real identity. We see that it was Rock who discovered his identity, and he's working with the others on the orders of the Hero Commission to take him out. The commission leader mentions that X kept his identity secret right from the start, and he refused to join any hero company. They think he was trying to place himself above everything, and they can't be sure of his true intentions, so they must eliminate him at all costs. Another hero suddenly attacks X, but he snaps and moves into the wall with Anu, who thinks it isn't safe there since the building might fall apart. X notices someone else approaching, so he takes them outside, where they face the 15th rank heroes from FOMO named the Ruby Sapphire Masters. Zack thinks they should live stream it, and Rock also sends one of Might Glory's heroes named Bug to participate in the fight. They all try to attack X, but he moves into the ground, causing them to hit each other. They continue chasing him, but he once again manages to dodge them and goes into a nearby building. One of Mickey's heroes manages to pass through the building, and he thinks the hero was unlucky as he couldn't enter the top 10, but he's X's natural nemesis. They all gang up on him, but he easily dodges their attacks and takes them down, and even Anna starts helping him. The commission sends soldiers to take him down, and Anna tries to bite them, but X grabs him and uses his powers to take them to the roof, where most of the soldiers fall. More soldiers arrive in a helicopter, so X summons a car, which he uses to smash through the chopper. Anna thinks they're going too far just to stop him from participating, so X asks him who the real demon is, and the hero agencies order more heroes to attack X. They start pursuing the car, and one of them grabs Anu, while the soldiers surround X from all sides. But he takes out his coin and turns it into a giant shield, which blocks all of their attacks. He snaps his fingers once again and takes Anu to a bar, where he thinks the hero agencies are going too far, since the commission doesn't allow heroes to fight each other before the tournament. X tells him that the men who came to his apartment were actually from the commission, so Anna realizes that they're all working together. X explains that the commission can only control heroes through the hero agencies, so they both work together and keep each other in check. He notes that as long as someone is useful, they can even turn a dog into a hero, but Anna notes that he won't be manipulated, so X reminds him of how he lied in front of the cameras. He explains that it was just to protect Shinya, but X tells him that the commission was also built to protect everyone at the start. He suddenly notices other heroes in the club, so he notes that he can't keep hiding, and it's time to uncover the truth. He throws his coin, which takes out a hero, and he quickly defeats the others before he takes on into the 4th dimension. X tells him the story of how the first hero had everyone's trust, so he became a god loved by the people, and began to shape the world according to his inner justice. But one day, he killed the hero who defied his will, and he kept punishing those who defied him, so it quickly turned people's trust in him into fear. Anu wonders if it's the history of the great evil Zero, who was defeated by the band of heroes, but X tells him that the commission lied to hide the truth, and buries Zero in everyone's memories. X mentions that there will always be people who wish to lift the seal on history, and they see a boy, so Anna wonders who he is, and X notes that he's someone who wants to reshape the world with Zero. We learn that Rock was a big fan of Zero from his childhood, and he witnessed Zero's demise, as well as the establishment of the hero world, so he wants to revive him. X shows Anna how Isol delivered the final blow to Zero, and how the commission and hero agencies were created after his death. X mentions that the commission spent all their time worrying that he would become the next Zero, but Zero never actually left, since he remains in Rock's memories, and he wants to revive him. X shows how fear never disappeared, and it created a domino effect with trust, where everything is connected from Ghostblade killing Hassan, to Vortex losing control and destroying the plane, where Cyan obtained her powers. He originally thought he became a hero because of the coin he gave to Cyan when she started singing, but he realizes that the seeds of cause and effect were planted long before that. X snaps his fingers, and he enters the tournament arena with Anu, where he notes that they're all just chess pieces controlled by fate. The heroes enter the arena, and they prepare for battle, as their fans start cheering for them, but as the countdown reaches 0, X notes that he's going to defy fate, and he reveals his true identity to everyone. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.